The skylight just came off the building.
Yeah, okay.
There's a skylight just shattered right in front of us. I guarantee, you know what, Jim, if the skylight's there, it's peeled the roof off and it's gonna come on top of us.
Yeah, I don't like this.
I don't like it either. We're gonna get hammered. I don't know where. We better move on the other side. We gotta get away from this debris coming off this roof with the Walmart. And I got glad the skylights are just fell in front of us and smashed. Guys, the winds here are only like 15 or 20. Can you imagine what 130 is gonna do here in a few minutes? Yep, that's what we've got here, guys. Okay, let's see which way this wind's gonna come out of here. Coming out of the north. Yeah, oh, I'm going the other way. I'm going the other side. Hey, Jim, the wind's out of the north. Jim, the wind's due out of the north, it looks like. Okay, everybody's running cover. Here we go, guys. Here they come. They're coming over too. I think they agree with me. I'm gonna pull up. Now there's debris. God, we gotta figure out which way this dark dawn wind's gonna fly. Okay, I'm pulling up for all these guys to get in behind me. They're pulling in. We're all hunkering. Okay, the wind's changing. Once this debris starts, you gotta figure out which way this wind, because the eye is like right on us, and it kind of just depends on how it wobbles. If we're gonna go to a blasting west or southwest wind or northwest wind. Let's see what we've got here. It's really eerie because like off in a distance, quarter, half mile, you can hear stuff hitting things, you hear things breaking, and as the wall's approaching, you hear things breaking. It's like somebody taking sheet metal and hitting it with a baseball bat about 4 blocks away, and you know something's coming, and that's all the debris in the air coming back towards you. And that's basically what I'm hearing in the distance coming. Let's see what happens here. Once we get a solid fix on which way the debris is going to come off the building, we'll go the opposite side, the leeward side, so we don't have the debris fall on the cars. And no debris in the parking lot. Okay. Golly. Okay. How's everybody on Periscope tonight? Let me put this down for a second. Yep. Starting to get lovely gust here. Feel the car rocking again. Okay, put that up real right now. Just leave that there for a second. I gotta grab some water. I'm very dehydrated. We're back with you on, and in the eye, we can see not totally clear. I see stars now, Jim. Look, there's stars. Is that stars? No, it's I guess it's this pole reflect. It's this pole there.
I've been wanting the stars.
I know we're looking for stars. But anyway, we got thunderstorms on the northeast eye wall here, just to my east, about 5 miles maybe, and I can see towers, just like I was in the plains and clear skies, and I can see the entire thunderstorm complex, the thunderstorm tower, and the northeast eye wall. And my winds are slowly coming around to west-northwest now, just about 10 miles an hour, but they're going to start gusting really violently here soon. But I can see the whole storm tower, like from surface up to about 45,000 feet, with a lot of intense lightning off to my northeast of my location. And it's like looking at a thunderstorm in the plains from a distance of about 10 miles. I can see the entire column inside
wind speed. I haven't seen any reports that have come across yet on that, but again, we can double check that here in just a few seconds.
What is the timeline for how frequently those come out? Are they going to? It's overnight now, so
yeah, it's overnight. We're probably looking at one that will, if it hasn't been issued, it will be issued shortly, and we'll see another one right about the 2 o'clock.
So right now, still a Category 4, where that means sustained winds of 130 miles per hour with wind gusts well over 150 miles per hour, which would put it in Category 5 status. Those are certainly winds that are just catastrophic when it comes to potential damage to property, and certainly life-threatening to anybody who is trying to venture outside. And what areas are next in the line of fire, if you will, for Hurricane Harvey?
If it continues on the pathway that it's supposed to continue on, that northwest kind of pathway, it would go up there just like that. So that would include Victoria, Cuero, Nixon, and again, if it kept going, it would mean Gonzales. But supposedly this is where it's going to turn around and come back like this. And that would mean Kennedy, Carn City, and Beeville would then be in the path of this thing as it comes back around. Looking for the latest update. They haven't had one since 10:30 last night. So let's see what we've got here. Even that keeps it at 130 mile an hour wind at 10:30. So that's going to be almost an hour and a half ago. So we're going to continue to watch, and maybe we'll get us a new update here in about 5 or 10 minutes or so. But this eye, it was looking a little disorganized earlier, and it doesn't seem to be so. It looks like it's trying to reorganize itself again. It's still pretty strong. There's the Rockport Fulton area. Fulton, again, is still in the clear at this point, but it looks like Rockport may be getting on the backside of that eye wall already, and I'll bet the winds are beginning to increase in Rockport.
Boy, we really are extending our prayers and well wishes for the folks there, because we heard the reports, we saw some of the damage from the first time the eye wall made it on shore, and now to think they're going to get round two at the same strength, at the same intensity, it's just, it's got to be disconcerting for people who are still there. Maybe they decided not to evacuate, and let's just hope they're hunkered down somewhere safe.
Yeah.
Volunteers. 311 is also the number that you need to dial here locally if you'd like to help with the volunteer efforts. Also, if there are blankets that you can donate, there is a need for those at shelters. Also, diapers. I know, especially down at Kazin Middle School on the south side, they were mentioning a lot of children in these shelters, and so there's a need for that, because when you leave your home, you can't take everything with you. So we've also been mentioning those things that you still have time to repair some of the things that you don't have to go outside of your home for. You can pack a small bag with medication, little cash, an ID, any other absolute essentials, just in case there starts to be flooding evacuations in your area. And
definitely get yourself some sort of waterproof container to put your personal belongings in, birth certificates, social security cards, things that might get impacted should the flooding happen here, that all indications are will happen What time it will happen, that remains up in the air.
Absolutely, and I'm just looking back to see the latest advisory, and the last one was at 10 o'clock, and that kept it at 130 miles an hour, and it also is calling for at least 40 inches of rain in that area. So again,
Still there.
it's still there, entirely possible that that's going to happen with the current pattern that we're looking at and the slow movement that we're looking at. That's very possible.
Did they say on there when the next update's going to be?
No, they did not. But usually it's a couple of hours apart. That's why I'm thinking they're probably writing one and should be issued here shortly.
Okay, our Michael Locklear is at the Leon Valley Emergency Operations Center. Michael, can you tell us kind of what the demeanor there is, what's the tone, and also what kind of impact are they bracing for?
Hey, Jessica, it's pretty quiet in here right now. Some of the folks are resting while it's pretty calm right now, but they do have a few people in here who are monitoring the radar, and of course we've been dry here so far, so no problems just yet. This room, of course, will be very busy, the Emergency Operations Center, in just a matter of hours. And I've been speaking with Blake Wade. He's the Assistant Fire Chief and the Assistant Fire Chief and the Emergency Management Coordinator. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, and you were telling me about some of the sacrifices, some of the folks who were going to be out on the roads all day tomorrow, had to cancel vacations, get everybody in here. Talk to me about your staffing.
Sure. What we've done with the Leon Valley Fire Department is we've upped our staffing. We've got 14 firefighters on duty now. The police department has doubled their staffing. We're operating with 10 patrol officers.
Back with you now again. We had repositioned back to the north side of the bridge. That's where we're at. We're back in Fulton, and the winds are gusting to probably 75 to 80 now. We had some power lines down. I've got debris falling. Eventually, you had some little storm surges come up over the roadway. You can see the water now. This is on the right near the coastline, and flying debris. There's water surging. Here's the wind down. Look at the water coming off. That's a water surging. That's white overspray coming off the ocean there. This is an intercoastal wind 75 to 80. The major hurricane winds are now approaching the coast. 80 to 125 mile an hour winds, 140 mile an hour winds just off the coast now, about 10 to 15 miles. And look at the winds now here. Total insanity. Here we go. Total whiteout conditions now. Full-blown hurricane. Pressure's falling rapidly at my location now. Haven't had a chance to look. Yeah, pressure's continue to fall at this location. Pressure falling rapidly. The ice coming toward us. Total whiteout conditions now. It's just screaming, man. It is absolutely screaming here. I'm in Fulton. Got large battering waves breaking on the coastline. Just right here by me. Big, huge battering waves. I'm going to move. Things continue to deteriorate rapidly. Continue to watch what happens here. Guys, just south of me, not very far. City of Fulton right there. Okay, winds right above where I'm located. Winds are 95 miles an hour, just over my heads now. Eyewall's coming toward us, continues to come toward Fulton. Eyewall's just south of me here. Let me see how far. It's not very far, guys. Here's the eyewall. Show where I'm at. The north eyewall is 23 miles from me. The north eyewall. Let's go to velocities. Look at the velocities data here. It's insane. Look at this. This is crazy. I got lightning. I got intense lightning around the inner eye wall now on the northeast side of it. Winds 130, 140, 145, 130, 125. This whole area right here is 125 to 140 mile winds, and it is coming on shore now at Fulton and also at Rockport. Extremely destructive winds are now coming inbound. I got stuff flying through the air. I'm on the water side. If I go inland just about 4 blocks, there's a tremendous amount of debris flying through the air. Shingles, so power poles come down and trees are being uprooted now. So I'm staying on the water until the storm surge comes in, and then I'm gonna climb rapidly inward about 2 blocks. But if I go there now, I'm gonna get hit with flying debris. The shingles are coming off the buildings here on the water. You can see the roofs are starting to come off. Right here, they're starting to peel up. See the shingles peeling off. This is all on the coast. This is right on the water. It's on the coastline. Oh my gosh. Okay, probably 80, 85 now, maybe 90. Total wide. Oh, the gazebo right beside me is tearing apart. It's blown away. The gazebo right here is coming apart right here. It's just, I just saw the part of the big roof come off. Big chunk of it just came off. It went flying by me. This gazebo just is starting to come apart.
Number of people in Corpus Christi now without power, 120,000. So significant outages in that part of the area, in that part of the Gulf Coast. And also the reports out of Rockport. Remember we told you about there were some reports that the high school was gone. That's no longer the case. They were able to assess the damage during the brief respite as the eye moved over that area, and it's just a portion of the school had caved in. So still some significant damage due to Hurricane Harvey, and they have the backside still to deal with. So even more damage could happen, but the reports of the school being gone just aren't true.
Well, we have some of the latest pictures coming out of Rockport and Port Aransas, but we want to give you the latest update on the conditions of the strength of the storm that just came out at midnight.
Just came out at midnight. We're looking at it right now on the radar, and you know, the eye wall continues to be strong. It's at 130 miles an hour. It is now on shore. We're expecting maybe in the next hour or so to let it go down, maybe break down. But you know, we're looking at the eye wall and looking at it. It does not seem to be breaking apart much. It is on shore already, and normally they'll get on shore and you'll begin to see some little changes that indicate that it could be breaking up. But this one is not doing that, and it's remaining strong. And it looks like the backside of that eye wall now is going through Rockport, and it will be getting into Fulton shortly. So they don't have much more time if they're doing anything in Fulton right now. All
right, let's take you to some of those pictures and videos coming out of. We're going to take you to Fulton. The first one is coming out of Fulton, so we're going to show you that. These are all just coming in, and you can just see how these are pieces of the fire department blowing away in Fulton. These are all current videos. So this is the scene there. You can see, oh, wow, whoa, the fire blowing across the scene. Again, this is pieces of the fire department in Fulton. Fulton is northwest of Corpus Christi. Fulton is northwest there of Rockport. So this is how strong it is there, just a little northwest of the eye of that storm. So again, you can see just the strength of those winds in the area, and we are still seeing and reporting that those speeds of the winds are possibly up to 130 miles per hour. All right, this is Padre Island we're showing you right now, where a construction site is blown apart in the area. Part of the actual foundation of that building is still together, so that is encouraging to see. But again, this is still a little bit earlier in the day.
Yeah,
exactly, earlier in the day. We have seen roofs ripped off, even just with the rings of this storm before the eye ever moved into areas like Corpus Christi. So this is just very preliminary information that's coming out. We anticipate the damage to be much worse.
Not surprising, though, to see a place like that's under construction, to see it endure some of the damage and sustain some of the damage it did. It just wasn't shored up, didn't have enough time. That hurricane got into the Gulf, and unfortunately for that construction site, they're going to have to make some major repairs there, some of that damage.
You are taking a look here at Corpus Christi. It looks like we have some
Power
fire.
lines.
Yep.
Power lines right there.
This is exactly why they say that when you see floodwaters as well, which we anticipate in San Antonio, to be extremely careful because there are oftentimes down power lines that you cannot see and people get electrocuted. So that is often what these winds cause as well, those down power lines,
and
which
one
cause
of the
plenty of
primary
deaths.
reasons why there's 120,000 people in Corpus Christi right now without power, and that number likely to go up even higher because of those down power lines due to strong winds.
You're looking at the storm surge there in Whitecap Beach a little bit earlier, and also some of that construction that we were showing you earlier, which is some of the winds earlier as they were moving in.
Storm surge there in Corpus Christi. I mean, they talked about it, 6 to 12 feet. It got up to 9 to 12 feet.
Look at that
That's
water.
just a wall of water that came up. And Alex, you talked about some of those main streets there in Corpus.
Yeah.
And they certainly got inundated with water.
No doubt. Well, you could see that water coming up. And, you know, we were saying it was going to get up there pretty high.
And look at you can see
Well,
in
this is
Fulton.
in Fulton.
This is one of the hardest hit areas right there, and you can
Yeah.
see why. I mean, look at the driving rain, sustained winds. I mean, they're the
Power
ones
line.
that, they're another power line right there. And look at the roofs being ripped off, some of the areas right there in the background. They saw some of the worst winds, 130 miles per hour. Everything Harvey had to give, this place took, unwillingly too, but they had no choice. And places like that, building shingles, sides of walls, they couldn't handle that. I mean, it's just too much.
When Fulton's only seen the first side of the storm, now they're riding through the eye, and the second part of the storm is about to swing through. So you're seeing it before the storm is done with them.
Exactly. You're seeing punch number one. And to be honest with you, at 130 mile an hour winds, they built that awning there at the gas station really well. You
The
know,
fact that you still see it. Hey, we have an update right now. Corpus Christi went from 120,000 just like that to 155,000.
Goodness.
And you see those down power lines. It is going to be a long night for people in Corpus Christi. And without seeing the damage with the light of the day, and now without lights in the community, they're going to wake up to a different landscape.
Well, and that is exactly why a lot of, when you're out of power, sometimes social media is accessible on some phones, sometimes. And so this might be the only information that they are able to retrieve there. So if you're able to share it, we do appreciate it.
Absolutely. We've got Mike Hernandez out on the storm tracker. Hey, Mike, tell us what you're seeing.
Well, right now we drove back on 37, Alex, and actually we came up. We're now heading out on 10, heading towards Seguin, because it looked like there was some showers there. That band of rain that was kind of north of the main hurricane looked like it wanted to come in. It has started to weaken. One of the things we did notice when we stopped was the winds are running, it looks like probably 15 to 20 miles an hour with an occasional gust past that. So it is breezy out there, but at this point, there's nothing of significance as far as heavy rains moving into the city along the I-35 corridor or I-10 at this point. However, we are starting to see that one of the first main bands coming off of the hurricane actually making its way to near Floresville and Nixon and just to the east of Pleasanton. And I think that's the area that's going to get hit first as we go through the overnight hours.
Mike, I have some
Back to
questions
you.
because if we're looking at these models, it looks as one of the outer bands is actually directly above you if you're just north of Mathis and making your way towards Floresville. And so you're not even seeing any rain right now, though. That's correct?
No. When we were in Mathis, we were in it. I mean, we started seeing a lot of activity. The winds got very, very gusty. That was about an hour ago. We've since come up from there. Now we're on 10 heading towards Seguin. We were trying to get in a position where we could move north or south from there. That's why we're not seeing anything. Yes, if we were back in Mathis, it got crazy on us there, so we actually turned around to get on the safe side of that because right away we started seeing power lines getting knocked down, things like that. We didn't want to do that in the middle of the night and not be able to see it.
Very smart. We appreciate you for clarifying that and giving us an update because we are seeing those larger bands swing through, obviously, Mathis, and then you guys are headed up, it sounds like northeast of San Antonio.
City manager in Rockport. There are reports right now that the city manager is talking about as many as 10 people being treated for injuries in Rockport. We don't know if that has to do with the building collapsed or the senior center, where people were reportedly trapped inside and emergency crews were trying to get to them, but at least 10 people injured in Rockport, and this is only the first wave has come through. They're going to get the back part of this eye wall coming through right now, and it's still the same strength at a Category 4 storm, they're going to get walloped again, Alex.
No kidding. I mean, this second time is going to come back around, and it's going to get them good at this point, because they've already had, every structure has been weakened by the first shot. So whatever's been weakened, this second band is going to take it right out.
Yeah, they got to be, certainly. Let's hope they're hunkered down over there. But Rockport, Fulton, they're the areas that got the brunt of this storm. But now we're starting to talk about areas that are a little closer to Bexar County, a little closer to home.
We're seeing the rain getting close.
Talk about that eye wall. It's still moving to the north and west. It has slowed down some, which means it's delaying what could be the inevitable, and that is a flooding situation.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're going to take you to TransGuide right now. You can see where some of that rain's actually showing on some of those TransGuide cameras and sticking to it right now. 37 at 9th. That's going to be on the east side of our downtown area. That's as though you're coming up 37 coming from Floresville. So we're also, I've been talking a lot about those outer bands, the outer rings of Hurricane Harvey, and Mike Hernandez that you saw on the road there had just come out of Mathis about an hour ago, and those thick bands are starting to make their way towards Floresville, and which would be the 37 driving up to San Antonio. So keep that in mind. These are our TransGuides around our city right now, but we're starting to see some of that rain come into the area. So 37 at 10, also on the southeast side of the downtown area, and 37 at Hackberry, also around the downtown commute. So right now, still pretty calm out there, but stay off the roads if you don't have to be on them.
Let's go back to the map and show us again those rain bands that are getting closer.
They are. They're. I'm going to pull this back up here, and we're going to take a look at San Antonio, and we can already see some of the edges of that lighter rain approaching eastern Bexar County. They got a little bit up near the Garden Ridge area, a little bit up near Windcrest, but the heavier rain still out there in Nixon and Floresville and Falls City and back over to Cuero, just this side of Gonzales as well. So all of that's coming our way tonight, and again, it's the situation that it's going to continue to keep raining. And the only question is that where it's going to stop? Is that going to be the western edge, so to speak? If so, then we won't see much rain. But if that western edge just moves over a bit, then yeah, we're looking at rain. And it's potentially moving over because this whole system is still coming up like this.
So it still has a diagonal slant to this system, is what you're saying.
It still has a diagonal slant to it.
But there's still a possibility, if it stays due north, that we wouldn't see too much rain.
We wouldn't see too much, but if we take this in that pattern right there where it's supposed to go, swing around and come back like this, that takes this whole big area, this whole band, right up over San Antonio.
And essentially a 1-2 punch, because you're going to get what looks like the northwest side of it, which is getting hammered, and then as it starts to come down, you're going to get that storm again in different areas of it.
You're going to get the other side of it, exactly.
And we should point out, too, because where you showed, put that drawing back on there if you can, my friend, because this is important to point out, where you said that turn was going to be, that's Sunday.
Yeah.
That's Sunday.
That's Sunday.
So that's all day tomorrow, portions of the next day, and then as it makes that slow turn, we've got another day, maybe two.
Yeah, that could be Monday, that could be Tuesday.
In all of your years, Alex, of all of your meteorology experience, how many storms have you seen that actually hook around? Is this a fairly common occurrence, and have you actually seen it happen before?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of crazy things happen before, particularly on the East Coast, but here in Texas, we've had storms that have come in and they've hooked over to the right or hooked to the left. We had a tropical storm that was Fern back in '74. It came up right along the Texas coast, and instead of like this one coming in like this and going in like most of them do, it came up this way and just decided to follow the coast all the way along and never actually went on shore. But it created a rain field like this that was significant flooding. I mean, we're talking major flooding like this one is doing. So again, I've seen a lot of different things where they'll come
Even
in.
Even U-turns? I can't
Even
recall.
U-turns, yes.
Okay.
Out on the eastern seaboard, there was one that came in, let's say this is South Carolina. It would come in, do South Carolina, would go way back out in the Atlantic. Day and a half later would come back and do it again.
Someone saying that they heard this is a 2 or 3 day process. I think that's a good way to put it. We're reading some of your comments here on Facebook, KABB, go there. I am reading those, and if you have questions, you can bring those to us. Or if you have pictures, we want to encourage you to text those to 44332. We can show those here on air if you give us permission to show photos and videos. Do not take those photos and videos if you're not in a safe location, but send them to us if you are in a safe location. Again, though, they mentioned that this could be a 2 or 3 day event, and that's not, is that that's not necessarily typical for what you see for hurricanes.
Not typically for us. You know, they'll come through and they'll get out of here, and you'll be able to get out and take a look at the remains.
Nothing about Harvey has been typical.
No,
nothing about Harvey.
Good point.
It's been atypical. Again, we're rewriting probably some record books. We're probably going to rewrite the forecast books all on this one as well once all the data's in, because it's going to make a good case study. But this is a storm that's been a challenge.
Let's talk about some of the current conditions. Some of the latest updates coming from the National Weather Service. Harvey made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane, which we all know near Rockport. We've been showing the damage. We've been showing some of the devastation. Harvey will maintain a very slow movement with Category 4 winds ongoing for the next several hours. That is important to mention, especially for people in Fulton and especially for people in Rockport as it continues to move to the north and west. And Harvey is forecasted, which is what Alex has been talking about, to meander. There you see it. Meander over the region, maintaining tropical storm winds along portions of the region through at least Sunday. For at least Sunday. That's another 36 hours.
Right.
36 hours of tropical storm force winds potential and continued onslaught of rain.
Exactly. That's why these models, when you look at the numbers, they kind of make sense once you look at it, because each one of them is coming up with a little bit different set, but they're all about the same. They're all showing that yellow mark, that yellow area of heavy, intense flooding out toward the east, and Bexar County is in every one of those. You know, it's so you have to look carefully at each one of these models and how they're resetting them. And even though we've been here, you remember the last time we did this one, it showed San Antonio about 2 inches of rain. Now it's 6 inches of rain. So it's updating. We've got models that update quickly, and as a result, you're seeing totally different
that line moved further to the west.
It did.
It moved further to the west, which means parts like Pearsall, you're now in play, whereas earlier you were in what could have been much less.
Yes, and so now things have changed, and again, we'll see change again in the next several hours. So while all these numbers are interesting to look at, the real thing is we're going to have to watch to see what the actual plot, the actual motion of this thing is going to do over the next couple of 3 days.
I also have an update here that Texas Health and Human Services safely evacuated all residents and staff from the Corpus Christi State Supported Living Center early Friday morning. Now, the last group arrived in San Antonio at State SSLC campus before 7:30 a.m. Friday, and that evacuation began Thursday evening and included 213 residents and more than 100 staff members who are accompanying them. So we are trying to keep you guys updated on all of kind of these successful connections also in this area. One thing we haven't touched on a whole lot is that you have spent the last year kind of focusing on what a busy hurricane season.
Right.
This was going to be starting June 1st and then going through, and we may potentially not have even seen the worst, because this is when it just starts getting going with the temperature changes.
Yeah, we've got to peak in September. And we were, I think, the increased it up to like 14 storms.
Yeah.
And so we've still got a long way to go yet. The Atlantic there's an active system out there off the coast of Florida, but it's not as serious as this one. So we're seeing more waves that are coming off the African coast.
Well, it's certainly keeping to its reputation that this could be one of the strongest seasons on record since we're starting, or one of the biggest ones that we've seen in over a decade is making its way through right now.
Exactly. So as Phil Klotzbach said, this could be an active season, and it is really active if it's in your place.
Yeah, that's for sure. And that means for the people of Fulton, especially, who are now getting the back end of that eye wall, and we're getting new video that's coming in. There's another look right now. This is another one of those eerie sights. You can hear the sirens going on in the hotels. You can see the flashing emergency lights. There is no power there, folks. So you can see just the lights from the cameras looking at some of the destruction there. And it's easy to see just how difficult it's going to be for these folks come the morning, who right now, look at the downed trees. I mean, some of these roads are going to be impassable for who knows how long until they can get back out there to get that stuff off the roads. But this video was taken during the eye of the storm. They're going to get this back end that's coming. And the National Weather Service's latest reports from 12 o'clock, that was a massive, what looked like a power line, something that was down there.
That was a power pole.
Yeah, that was a big power pole, that's for sure. But you think about now the second wave that's coming, and the National Weather Service is saying that it hasn't lost some of its strength that we had hoped that would happen. And you were talking about, Alex, how the eye wall still looks so defined. Another bad sign as it's overland now and just isn't starting to break apart.
No, in fact, we're looking at it right now. The back end of it's already coming through Rockport, and it's about ready to go through Fulton again. And it does not show any sign to me that, I'm going to break apart. It's still pretty intense. It's still pretty strong. It's got good character with it, and we pull back. You can see it's still got some strength.
We have some video coming in of a hotel that is flooding there in Rockport. I'm going to take you out to that. You can see the water already gushing in here below those doors, and I know a lot of people have been trying to use sandbags to protect their property, their businesses, but again, in storms of this magnitude, it's simply not enough. It helps, but a lot of times it's not enough. So this is a hotel there in Rockport, one of the hardest hit areas, as we know. Video just coming in of this. I also, if we can, get some on one of our trans guide, I saw several 18-wheelers that were stalling there with some emergency lights on one of our roads out there. Some of these pictures are getting a little blurrier out there with some of the rain starting to move into our area. I'm going to wait for this to circulate because I just saw several, it looked like it may have been 35 in Space Center, which is on the northeast side of town. So as we work through these, you can see most of these trans guide pictures are very clean pictures of our city, which is fantastic news. And again, it looks like it's 35 at Space Center. So I'm waiting for these to rotate here. As we kind of see the storm move into our area, we know that our roads are very slick here, especially when the rain just starts to fall, because sometimes that oil has accumulated on the roads. And so we always encourage people to not only stay off them during the storms, but to keep that in mind. 37 at Pecan Valley is going to be over there on the southeast side of town. I'm still waiting for this picture to come up. There is a trans guide out there. It looks like it's 35 in Space Center, where we have emergency crews on scene and several 18-wheelers. So it looks like it's taking a little time to pull up, but we'll keep our eyes on that and let you know if we can get a picture of that for you.
Yeah, right now, though, the big story is what's unfolding just to our south and east, and it is a monster storm. The National Weather Service is saying that this is going to remain a Category 4 storm for several more hours. And when you talk about these winds, Alex, at 130 miles per hour, and you think about people who didn't evacuate, they didn't heed perhaps what emergency crews and emergency leaders have been saying, elected leaders, to get out. Now they need to hunker down because it's going to be a bumpy night. It's
going to be a very bumpy night. The Category 4 storms that far in, that's going to be serious for Goliad, for Refugio, back over to Seadrift, and Victoria. Those are populated areas.
Okay, well, we have Joe Arrington with us, and I'm getting word on his location right now. EOC, okay, Emergency Operations Center. So
is that in Bexar County?
Yes.
That is in Bexar County,
correct.
Okay.
At Brooks City Base. So, Joe, tell us a little more about what is happening in the area.
So right now, here in the San Antonio and Bexar County Emergency Operations Center, we're continuing our 24-hour operations, supporting the state in running the evacuation shelters. That is an ongoing operation, and we're closely monitoring what could potentially come here to San Antonio with the heavy rainfall or severe weather. And we're full prepared to handle that if we need to be, to engage this center where we can support both functions, the state with the sheltering of the evacuees from the Gulf Coast, as well as responding here locally.
Ryan Wolf here. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We know you're very busy, but talk to us about how frustrating it is to see this storm out there and not know where it's going. Difficult to kind of put a plan into place if you don't know exactly what's going to unfold.
It is. This storm has been extremely dynamic in the fact that it has changed so much over the past few days, and it continues just to be a slow build and, kind of tilting on the edge here, waiting to find out what happens. But by nature, everyone in this facility is an emergency responder, and so that's what we're trained for, is to be prepared for any situation that presents itself. So we don't have a concern whether we can handle it or not. We're just trying to be prepared for anything that could potentially come our way.
For you, not a matter of if, but when are you guys thinking, as our meteorologist Alex Garcia is saying, that this is likely going to be a flooding event for Bexar County, and we all need to be prepared? I mean, it's been very quiet throughout the day. It's been a very slow mover, but all indications are that this will continue to move to the north and west, albeit very slowly at just 8 miles per hour now. But it is moving in our direction, and Alex says it could go as far up as, say, Karnes City as a Category 1 storm, Category 1 hurricane, and that could make things very dicey for us in Bexar County.
Correct, it could, and we're fully prepared for that. We've done some modeling to see what different situations can look like with all of our partners through the city and the county, whether it be the River Authority or the City of San Antonio, Bexar County, CPS, SAWS. Everyone has been involved in preparation planning for whatever presents itself, and we feel that we are extremely ready for that. And if and when, like you said, it gets here, we live by the old adage of prepare for the worst and hope for the best, and that's what we're doing now. And should things come to the situation where it's dire here in San Antonio, the fire department, police department, the sheriff's office, and the county fire departments are all prepared to respond as need be.
Emergency responders there in where you're at, have you heard any updates for what's happening, unfolding in Fulton, Rockport area? Have you reached out to emergency responders there to find out if they need any assistance?
So we haven't reached out to them. The way this is operating is we are in support of the state operations and also in the federal emergency response side of things now. And if they reach out to us and request anything, we make that happen. We're hearing the same rumors that everyone's hearing, and we try to debunk or find out the facts about any of those that we can. And they're in a tough situation down there right now, and we're offering any support that we can to help them by our whatever resources we have here, which is what we've been doing for the past few days, and we will continue to do for as long as needed.
Joe, how many times have you found yourself in this same situation at the Emergency Operations Center here in Bexar County, helping with a storm of significant magnitude like this? And how does this kind of waning pattern compare to others? Because we've had people write in and say, oh, well, are we getting ready for nothing? But this is a waiting pattern that you have to do with a lot of storms, or is this unique to this one?
No, this happens. This is these are the things we train for constantly in this facility and with all of our partners and everything. Every time we responded to a storm, whether it be Sandy or Katrina, whichever one it has been, and we responded, there's always this wait and see. We make sure that we enact our plans and we operate early enough or we're prepared for whatever happens. So this is. The storm is moving slower than some in the past, and it has developed differently than some in the past, but it's not anything we're not prepared for. We continue to be, aware of what's changing and how it's developing. We constantly getting briefings from the National Weather Service, all of our support agencies out there, so we know, again, we can model and we can plan for what it is. And so it is frustrating that it is taking long, but right now we're fortunate that we can focus all of our efforts on supporting the state and their evacuation and making sure those needs are met before we have to turn part of our attention, at least, to supporting our efforts here at home.
National Weather Service just put out an alert saying that the initial rain bands are reaching Austin and San Antonio as we speak, initially light and then getting heavier near daybreak. And some of the estimated rainfall totals over the next 48 hours, average of 7 inches, 15 inches across eastern Bexar County. 7 or 15, either way, what will that do in terms of flooding to our region?
Here in San Antonio, we're no stranger to flash flooding. That's something we deal with quite often, and specifically from the fire department standpoint, it's something our guys are all certified in, and swiftwater rescue and our technical rescue teams are certified at an even higher level. And we have boats in place that are ready to go at a moment's notice at all times. It's not just something we throw in there at the last minute. That's something we always have. TCI with the city, the Transportation and Capital Improvements are on the ready to get the streets closed if they need to. They're constantly monitoring the low water crossings, and they are fully operational 24 hours right now as well. CPS Energy has teams out ready, pre-staged, and with materials in certain locations where they expect things to be an issue. And so right now, fortunately, all we've had to deal with here in town is some high wind, and we've had just a handful of power line issues, and they're being repaired rather quickly. So again, we're fortunate that right now, just the very edge of the outer bands are here, so we don't have that issue of the high water yet. We fully expect it, and we're fully prepared for it. I agree with everything we've been told. The heaviest of rain will be south and east of the 37, 35 I-10 area, and that's fortunate for San Antonio. I'm not saying that anywhere is better than other to get the rain, but as far as the flash flooding and the runoff, excuse me, that's the best place where that reduces that risk to the most people.
And Joe Arrington, thank you very much. He's at the Emergency Operations Center, Brook City
pleasure.
Base, working hard for us, and we really do appreciate the work that our emergency responders are doing all across the area, really doing an excellent job. They're staged, they're ready, and they're willing to put their own lives at risk to help others here in our community.
Very much so. Appreciate that. Nod to all of those who are out there working to keep us safe. Barry Pettis with NISD is also here with us as well. We're going to talk with him about some school closures and how this affects some of our school districts in the area. We're showing a picture here of the current scenario playing out with Hurricane Harvey. So we'll be getting, it looks like, Barry Pettis in just a few moments. Oh, we actually have him right now. Barry, tell us the very latest coming out of NISD.
Well, I can tell you the very latest is we have canceled all district student events for tomorrow. I think that we, in collaboration with most of the other Bexar County school districts, have made that same decision. As of right now, we are certainly planning on having school as regularly scheduled for Monday. However, we are certainly monitoring the weather very closely this weekend, and I know that the Bexar County superintendents are planning on communicating with each other on Sunday afternoon to see what the weather looks like at that point before making any further decisions.
Okay, and again, I know that we will be in touch with you and vice versa throughout the weekend, but as of right now, you mentioned that all activities have been canceled for the weekend. School is a go for Monday as of right now, but that all is contingent on how this thing lingers, correct?
That is absolutely correct. So the soonest that we would make any kind of decision would be that Sunday afternoon. And if we chose to make any changes that would impact Monday, we would certainly communicate that via website, social media, of course, our local media outlets as well.
Barry, this is Ryan Wolf. You're going to have some upset kids. I know my stepson, who's 12, was hoping to extend maybe his summer by a day or two, but we'll have to wait and see. And understandably so. I mean, because right now it's still anybody's guess exactly how much we're going to see and how bad the impacts are going to be, as we really barely saw any rain here in Bexar County yet. But this thing is moving to the north and the west, and it's certainly going to make some impacts here. Are any NISD schools serving as shelters or a staging ground for any emergency operations?
We have two district facilities that right now are on standby as shelters. Marshall High School is on standby as a shelter. That's located right in the outskirts of Leon Valley. And with Leon Valley being very prone to flooding, Marshall High School is on standby as one facility. But our Northside Sports Gym, located off 1604 over at the Ferris Athletic Complex, is also on standby as well for any of the Gulf Coast evacuees. And as far as I know this evening, it has not been utilized, but it is up and ready and prepped for any evacuees that might be coming up from the Gulf Coast.
Very good. Barry Perez, we really appreciate it. Northside ISD right there, giving us the very latest information and a pretty good response. I mean, there's really no reason, I guess, as of yet to cancel all classes for Monday when we really don't know.
We don't know
what
yet.
path it's going to
right,
take.
or how big the impact is going to be to our area.
And like we said earlier, we had all these different models. We showed them all. Everything from 2 inches of rain here to 15 to 12 to even 13
Big difference.
Big difference. And, it's because the models were trying to pick up on where this eye was and where the eye is going to go. The only definite thing, though, that we do know tonight and we feel confident about is that rain is not very far away from Bexar County. We've got a lot of folks here that are asking, am I going to get hit? Is it going to be Kirby? Is it going to be Poteet? We've got some people here that want to know if it's going to be 12 or 20 inches. And again, we're trying to determine that, but it's difficult to determine it until you get this eye on shore, which it is now. Now we're trying to calculate, is it going to continue to move forward like it is? It looks like it's intense. It's not releasing. It's not backing off. And so that could mean more rain for us here and more rain across the area. So we've got some person, I live off of Foster Road 78. Will it hit us? If it's not already raining there, it will be very shortly, particularly that's out toward the east, and we're looking on the radar, and you've got the bands of rain that are approaching you from the east right now. We just haven't seen the rain here in San Antonio, and because it's everywhere else, everybody said, well, we're not going to get anything. Well, guess what? It's there. it's approaching. It may happen in an overnight event here. We're at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. We may be talking about some pretty good rain that's going on in San Antonio right now. So again, there's a lot of different things we're going on. We're trying to get the latest data coming in right here and getting some data.
I'm going to scroll through some of these questions for you as you talk.
There's a lot of questions that are coming through, and most of them want to know if it's going to hit me. What's it going to be west? We've said all night that if it's going to be out here west of San Antonio, there is a much less chance of you getting anything if you're out here west of San Antonio. In that box, you may not see much. It just depends if the final path comes up, swings around and goes like this. Then that means the rain pattern will go up along this edge and will come back down. So that means everybody in Cotulla and Eagle Pass and back over in Uvalde, you'll watch it go by. But if it just happens to meander a little bit further over to the west, come up right here, swing around and go down, that means the rain pattern now extends like this. And so there's a lot of things that we haven't figured out yet. We showed you those model plots, and they're all over the place. And again, we're writing some new history here. This is not something that we can predict and say, hey, it's going to be right there at 5:30. We had some earlier questions today. I live on such and such road. What's it going to be like at 12:30 in the afternoon? I can't do that. There's not a meteorologist in the world that can do that. We don't have the technology yet to be able to do that. What we're doing is be able to give you the best information that we've got to show you that indeed there is rain. And you know, if we draw a box, everybody right there, you're going to get rain. It's that simple.
Well, you know, Del Rio's in our viewing area, and I have seen several people from Del Rio write in on my page and also on our Facebook page.
Yes.
They're just sitting pretty right now watching this whole show unfold.
Absolutely. You know, and we've answered those questions earlier today in some Facebook Lives earlier. I said, you know, if you're back over here like this, you're not going to see anything. You're going to watch it go by. Same thing for people way down here in the valley. I told them, you know, if you're down there in the valley, you're going to watch most of it go by.
That's my old stomping ground right there.
That's right.
In 2008, they had Hurricane Dolly, $1 billion in damages. You guys, you could just look at this from a distance. This is not something that you want to see there. If there's one thing I do know from hurricanes, and that it holds true, is that 50, 60 miles can make all the difference in the world as to whether you see rain or you do not see rain. And that is what's going to play out here. Folks that are neighboring towns and cities to San Antonio, the ones to the west, 50, 60 miles, you are just going to see nothing out of this. And for those that are in the area and closest to the eye wall, 56 miles, 50, 60 miles out, that's where the rain bands are right now. And it's getting closer, and it continues to move. If you watch the actual path of the storm, it continues to move to the north and west. That has not started. It's been moving to the north and west. It has slowed down a bit. It came ashore at 10 miles per hour. Now it's at 8 miles per hour. But Alex, we haven't seen it do sort of a turn to the right. We haven't seen it do a turn to the left. It's been a steady northwest angle.
I do want to break in really quickly with this. The Rockport Chamber and city manager there mentioning that they have rescued people from the damaged school and also senior center in Rockport currently. So that's breaking news right now. Rockport Chamber and the city manager reporting that they have rescued people there from the damaged school and also a senior center. And of course, they're getting walloped right now by the second end of the storm.
Exactly. We're getting some reports here saying up here on the southeast side and over Poteet, the winds are starting to pick up.
Sure.
Starting to get windy. And as we said, this is the edge of that band that's coming through. So it's going to start to happen here within the next hour. This band, along with the wind, is going to begin to affect all these areas here in the next hour or so. So those of you who said, we're not getting anything, I haven't seen anything, it's coming. You just have to be patient and be ready for it, because it's coming out on the southeast side, already getting some wind coming up there.
A lot of people antsy. They're saying, why is this storm taking so long? It is Mother Nature, and it has a mind of its own, and it might be spinning really fast, but it is not moving directionally through different cities very quickly. It's moving, what did you say, direction-wise, about 8 miles per hour?
It's moving 7 to 8 miles an hour now, and it's really slow. It's slowing down.
But that's not the winds. The winds are about...
That's the forward speed.
That's the forward speed.
So it's taking some time. People want to know about Somerset. Again, take a look at where Somerset is. Somerset's way back up over here. There's Somerset. We can give you that. There's the line of rain right there up near Elmendorf and Poteet. So you're within range here, maybe within minutes, maybe within 25, 30 minutes, the winds are going to begin to pick up in Somerset, and you're going to be able to see, feel some of this activity get a little bit closer to you. So again, it's moving very slow. It is slowed down. This is not like your normal storm that you get a storm that comes out of the hill country. This is completely different, and you have to be able to understand that these things move slowly. They're erratic. They're not like storms along a cold front that come pushing in at 45 miles an hour and it blows through and okay, we're done. This thing's going to be with us for about 3 or 4 days.
And all you really need is to get tickled by some of these rain bands to see a whole lot of rain fall in just a little bit of time, because there is a lot of rain falling. As you look at the road cam right now, this is heading back into San Antonio, and you can see the windshield dry there. So Bexar County, a little bit of sprinkles, but nothing significant, that's for sure. That's because Bexar County, right on that line, Alex just showed how close it is. So road cam showing a little bit of sprinkles on the windshield, but the good news there is there's nobody on the roadways, both being that it's 1 a.m. and the fact that there's a Cat 4 hurricane to our southeast.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Knowing our people here, though, a lot of people out late and a lot of people putting in questions on how am I going to get my taco during the storm. There's a taco stand on every corner in San Antonio, so I'm sure you will be taken care of, but do it safely.
Absolutely. We've just drawn the line. We're getting reports now from New Braunfels up near Schertz and Windcrest, now Poteet, Elmendorf. Winds are picking up. So we've drawn that line. It's already moving into Bexar County right about now. So we're going to see the winds begin to increase up across eastern Bexar County as the band begins to approach. Again, it will be pockets of heavier rain. Some will be moderate rain, some will be light rain, but it's tropical in nature. So it's not going to be like your normal thunderstorm come through and blow through. It's going to come through in waves. So you'll get a light wave, you'll get a more heavier wave. It's going to get windy. You're going to notice the wind shift if it hasn't already. It's moving slowly through the area. So we're getting reports from New Braunfels, Garden Ridge, Windcrest, Elmendorf, and Poteet, and even Somerset now coming in with it's beginning to pick up. So again, approaching the San Antonio area right now, that's the line that we're looking at. And that main part of the storm still well down toward the south. So we've got this for many hours, all during the hour of day tomorrow, and possibly all during the day Sunday and into Monday as well.
All right, very good. One of the warnings that we just got from the National Hurricane Center is that Harvey made a second landfall on the northeastern shore of Copano Bay. Mm-hmm. So 2 landfalls.
Two landfalls right across the bay.
So that does that simply mean the first edge hit went through the eye and now the second
Well, the
edge
first edge went across the barrier island, the coast, and then went across the bay and hit the other side.
Okay.
That's what it's looking like.
Giving significant damage to both those areas.
Yeah, both the areas.
As a Cat 4 storm.
Exactly.
Where it still remains a Category 4 storm. I really anticipated it to lose some strength as it come ashore. It's 100% on shore.
I would, yeah, and it came ashore at even
just around 10 o'clock, right?
By their standards, by NHS standards, it came across at 10 o'clock, and we're looking 2-3 hours later, and it's still maintaining strength. And the models are saying it's going to maintain that strength for another 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 hours. So that would mean sometime around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, it's still at 130-mile-an-hour winds. That's incredible. So if you're here in San Antonio, you do not need to evacuate. All you need to do is just kind of hunker down. And remember that tomorrow's going to be not a pretty day. You don't want to be getting out and around tomorrow. Don't be doing that.
I'm checking power outages for our area with CPS Energy, and right now, again, with us not having been really hit by the storm yet, and it just moving towards our area, just a scattering of just very basic power outages in our area. So we're starting with almost a clean slate in the area. So I anticipate this will change very soon. My hope is it won't, but I imagine this may be changing very soon.
Got a comment here from Windcrest, says the winds are howling here. So we're starting to get some wind pickups, and that's gonna play havoc on the power lines, folks. And so I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see some more of these little green dots and red dots kind of show up over the next couple of 3 hours as the winds get in here and start shaking up those power lines and creating a little bit of an issue there. Yeah.
Earlier today, the governor, he was in San Antonio and he held a press conference, and I know we have some of that. So I'm going to ask the producers if they can cue that up. Because it's important information what the governor said. Say that again?
It's going to take a few minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. See if they're going to get that up there. But we want to show you what the governor said, important information about how Bexar County is a staging ground for a massive operation, from emergency vehicles to helicopters to buses. He really breaks it down. So we'll get that queued up so we can show you. In the meantime, we're watching what continues to be a Category 4 storm for some 3 hours now, and it's showing no signs really of losing strength.
And I believe that they said that they're ready to show some of that video of him speaking, our Governor Greg Abbott, there on the south side at Kazin Middle School, one of the shelters for many of our viewers on the south side. So let's listen.
Well, good afternoon. I wanted to let you know about a status update. As you may know, we just had a statewide call, a call that involved more than 30 state agencies that are involved in helping to respond to this hurricane. A call that involved local officials, county officials, everyone around the entire state of Texas that is involved in this process. We talked to people from the Gulf Coast region all the way up to North Texas who are helping in their own way to respond to these challenges. Let me make several points and then I'll take your questions. First, I want to thank FEMA, the Department of Homeland Security, the President, for their commitment to helping Texas respond to these challenges. I want to thank the Red Cross for all that they are doing. I want to thank Chief Nimkid for his leadership, as well as Director McCraw for all that he does in helping us respond to these types of challenges. As far as the situation that we are in, it's a situation that has been evolving, one from a fairly difficult to ascertain tropical storm into one that's turned into a very complex and dangerous hurricane. It's a hurricane that's going to prove more dangerous than many hurricanes. Not only are we going to be dealing with the high winds that typically come with what should be a Category 3 hurricane, but we are going to be dealing with immense, really record-setting flooding in multiple regions across the state of Texas. As you know, this is a hurricane that will come inland and then is prognosticated to just hover for a long period of time. It could be days. And during that long period of time, there will be a tremendous amount of rain dropped on miles upon miles of Texas. This is going to lead to what was described earlier in our conference call as record flooding at multiple locations, ranging all the way from the Corpus Christi area all the way up to the Houston area. There are several stages of reaction that are needed right now. One is in order to help Texans best be able to deal with and respond to these challenges, it is essential that while there still may be some time over the next few hours, Texans who are in areas that have been declared as evacuation areas, it could be your local official who has declared an emergency evacuation. You need to heed that call if at all possible. Even if an evacuation order has not been issued by your local official. If you are in areas between Corpus Christi and Houston, and maybe even some other areas, especially low-lying areas, you need to strongly consider evacuating. Because here's what's going to happen. You may think that the initial surge is something that you will be able to deal with. What you don't know and what nobody else knows right now will be the magnitude of flooding that will be occurring over the coming days in the aftermath of the initial surge. If you wait until you realize how serious this condition is, you likely will find that it's too late for you to be able to evacuate. So I would urge everybody who has the possibility to consider evacuating as soon as possible. The second stage after that, it will be the search and rescue stage. We already have a large number of both personnel, boats, helicopters, and other facilities that will enable a multitude of state-based officials to be able to go through the search and rescue process. We will be there to help as many people as we possibly can. But of course, that search and rescue process will not be able to begin until after the hurricane components have begun to die down. And of course, you don't want to put yourself into a situation where you could be subject to a search and rescue. You have the power and the ability right now to be able to avoid being stuck into a search and rescue situation if you make the decision to get out of harm's way before it is too late. Another challenge that people just need to be aware of, there have already been reports of tornadoes, and this is just a natural component that comes along with hurricanes. We anticipate that the number of tornadoes will increase in the coming days. So it's something that you simply have to be constantly vigilant about. And remember that as you're trying to deal with these tornadoes that could arise, you may be doing that when you're already out of power, when you're already out of supplies, when your ability to listen to news or learn about what may be happening may be compromised. There again is another reason why it may just be better for you to go ahead right now and go through the process of evacuation. I have issued a request for a presidential disaster declaration, a major disaster declaration that I issued to the president moments ago. This, of course, will trigger the assistance or additional help and assistance from the federal government that the state of Texas is asking for. We can obviously tell already at this stage, this is going to be a very major disaster. I would like to run through several of the detailed reports that were provided by several of the many agencies that participated in our conference. The Texas Military Service, for example, have already activated more than 1,000 personnel and will be adding 300 more. They are including the provision or providing vehicles, aircraft, as well as shelters. Texas Task Force. This is Texas Task Force 1 and 2, I think, are the organizations that will have a leadership role in the search and rescue process. They have amassed 900 personnel available for participation in the search and rescue process. Now, we have game wardens here in the state of Texas who are already at work and helping to respond to this. Obviously working with, among other things, boats and working multiple locations in the affected areas. Importantly, they pointed out that all state parks will be open to evacuees at no charge. So, and I'll be going through some evacuation information as I go along in no particular order. But one place that people can go to if they are considering relocating to an evacuation location is a state park, and importantly, absolutely no charge for that during this emergency time period. DPS troopers have mobilized to help respond in the entire area ranging from San Antonio to Corpus Christi and to all impacted regions. The Red Cross now, as usual, is playing a vital role. They already have 7 shelters open. They will be adding 47 more that are on standby for a total of 54 shelters. And they are ready to aid anybody who needs any type of shelter assistance. The easiest way to try to get a hold of them to find out maybe the shelter closest to you is to call 1-800-RED CROSS. We have the state health services involved also. They have, among other things, 4 shelters open, primarily in San Antonio now. The reality is whenever anything like this happens, as people are displaced, there are certain people with certain either acute or unique health care needs, and it's important that people understand that the state health services will be available to assist in any particular needs. The Texas Division of Emergency Management has deployed 500 buses for evacuation. Some people may be wondering, well, they may be thinking they want to evacuate, but how is it they're able to do so? Because they don't have any mode of transportation. It's important that they understand that these more than 200 buses are going to be available at multiple locations around the state of Texas. If you're looking for one of those buses, perhaps the easiest thing for you to be able to do would be to contact either your local emergency management personnel or local law enforcement, who can direct you to the location where you can find one of those buses for evacuation. The Texas Health and Human Services Commission is working with state living centers. More than 200 people have already been moved to San Antonio from Corpus Christi state-supported living centers, and that process will continue. We want to make sure that people across state know that if you have a friend or relative in one of those centers, the state is being very aggressive and active in ensuring that their care is taken care of. Once again, an entity that is always helpful is the Salvation Army. They have organized 32 mobile feeding units, and that is on top of feeding units that are provided by the Red Cross, as well as a multitude of other entities. Right now, we have the demonstrated ability to shelter more than 41,000 evacuees if the need arises. The bottom line is that the state of Texas, working in partnership and collaboration with officials at the local level, are responding to this hurricane in a very aggressive way. First, to minimize any loss of life. Second, to ensure that the needs of our fellow citizens will be addressed as swiftly and as comprehensively as possible.
All right, well, one of the things that he mentioned that's very beneficial for a lot of people in the area and evacuees from the coast is that you're going to have some of those state camping grounds free of charge in case you need to go to one of those and aren't necessarily in need of a shelter per se. And also, hopefully you're traveling in your car. Some people take their RVs, but the winds can knock them around and those can be very dangerous. Exactly.
You know, any high profile vehicle is going to be a little bit of a problem. We're getting some people that are already saying it's getting windy up there. Winds 56 miles an hour in Poteet as of a couple of minutes ago. We also had some reports a little bit earlier about winds starting to pick up. China Grove area power out, says Joseph Hernandez.
I'm going to check on those power outages.
So we'll check on that to confirm it, to make sure that indeed we do have that going. Jane wants to know if it's safe to drive Sunday morning. Sunday morning is a toss-up right now. We're going to have to wait and see how strong the winds are. And right now, those winds are strong right down along the eye wall. It's still at 130 miles an hour right now and not dying down. Liz says if it's 4 to 5 days at 7 miles an hour, does it taper down some and come to Cat 4? Hopefully, we're hoping that it drops out of Cat 4 and gets into Cat 2. The models put it into a Cat 3 and then a 2 and then a 1, but that 1 is real close to San Antonio, and that is the issue that we're concerned about right now, because that could mean more rain for us to come back into the region. So again, Converse saying they've got some strong winds back up into the Converse area. So again, we're starting to see the rain starting to pick up. It's coming into the San Antonio area right now. This is about the time we expected it to arrive because of the banding that was out in Houston. And now we're beginning to see those bands coming around. Now remember, in Houston, these little areas spun off a couple of little tornado warnings out there because they've got a couple of little spins in them. So we're going to be making sure that we watch each one of these little bands as they come through. We've got a good deal right now. You can see the overall pattern's going to come across Bexar County just like this. And this is the area where we could see those little spin-ups come moving into the region here. So we're going to keep a real close eye on those for the next couple of hours or so as that band comes around. The eye wall down toward the south and southeast of us still holding pretty strong. We'll go back down there. And again, the backside of it has already gone through Rockport, and it's already gone through Fulton, and it is moving slowly in a north-northwestward track. So that means if we were trying to draw a track on that, it's coming up along this way, and more than likely it will go in between Goliad and Victoria, and it could be at Category 4 strength. And that would mean 130 mile an hour winds for Goliad and for Victoria, and they've yet to see the action. I know we had Emily Bauckham there earlier, and the rain was like really coming down. The bulk of the storm has not actually arrived yet, so we have to be very careful about how things are going to approach us, what it's going to do, and of course we have to be safe and remind ourselves not a good time to get out and driving in the road either tomorrow morning or any time late tonight.
One of the things you mentioned, Alex, was some of the windier areas that people were marking on our Facebook Live, and we do encourage you to chime in there. We're back reading some of those posts, but I'm checking on the CPS Energy outage map, and luckily right now it hasn't picked up too significantly, but the interesting part of the CPS Energy map, and we'll see if we can pull that up here for you. In fact, if we can refresh this a little bit, we are showing, I actually have a showing here of a few more power outages, more concentrated on the southeast side of town, which would be the area right now catching some of the most outer rings of the wind and rain from this storm. So we're seeing these outages more concentrated on the southeast side of town, on the east side of town, where he mentioned we also have some people in China Grove saying there's power outages in those areas. So there's also a place on the CPS Energy website where you can report those outages, and it helps the CPS Energy crews know more fully where to respond, where the need is, and that will become very helpful and beneficial to emergency crews and cleanup crews in our city, especially tomorrow and Sunday throughout the weekend as this storm moves into our area more fully.
And again, we're going to be watching the storms as they're beginning to move now into Bexar County. We're seeing them up on the radar here. We're getting numerous reports of wind beginning to pick up in eastern Bexar County, all the way over to Somerset, back into Poteet and Pleasanton. We're getting reports now out of Schertz. And so again, these bands are just now beginning to reach into the San Antonio area this evening. And we want to emphasize to you that once this rain starts, it's going to be a very long process. We're going to see rain all through the morning hours, probably all during the day tomorrow. It will continue tomorrow night and could continue all day Sunday. And that's why we were thinking our numbers, when we start looking at the number of in the models, just how much rain we could potentially see in the area. That's why the models have been varying quite a bit. They're showing we could get anywhere from 2 to 4 to 6 to 8, maybe 12 inches of rain. It all depends on the final path of the storm system, what it does, how long it continues over the area. This is one of the model plots that we've got. Category 3 possibly, but you know, at this point that is a forecast, and right now it remains at Category 4. We're hoping it drops off to a 3. It could be a 2 as it moves up, and really close. Notice that. That's up into Wilson County at a Category 1 hurricane strength, dropping to tropical storm strength, and then going back into San Antonio, going back down to Corpus, and then going along the coast, and then heading on up toward Houston area again. So this long track is going to take several days. And because of that, that's why we're expecting some rather significant rain back into the area. We're getting reported some strong winds in Commerce now. So again, the wind's starting to pick up. We're starting to see these bands starting to move through. And keep in mind, these are the same bands that we were watching in Houston just a couple of 3 hours ago that were firing up these little spin-up tornadoes. This is the area right in here that's coming in from Houston. And these are the ones that had those little spin-ups. So we're going to have to watch them because they're going to rotate around and come right through Bexar County in the next couple of hours. That could potentially spin up something, so we need to watch it to see what it's going to do. Meanwhile, the band out below that is poised to move a little bit further north. So this big batch here of rain We'll move up into Gonzales, up into Hallettsville, and back over to New Braunfels, and maybe up here into eastern Bexar County. So we're just beginning to see the impacts here from this storm that's beginning to move in our direction. And again, the models indicate we could see some very, very heavy rain, particularly if this thing stays with us over the long term. So it's a long-term process of all night tonight, all day tomorrow, all day Sunday, and possibly all day Monday. So we're looking at 3 days of this thing spinning around and dumping rain on top of us. And the rainfall rates with some of this earlier today were pretty strong. We can get down and take a look at the 24-hour rainfall totals as they come in. And again, there you can see up along Victoria, back here to San Antonio, we do have some pretty good rainfall amounts that are showing up right now. There's 2 inches of rain. Up at Gonzales, it's 2.5 inches of rain. Back here, and let's get in there a little bit. There at Nixon, we're looking 3 inches of rain, 3 inches of rain north of that. Then into Forestville, we're also looking 3 inches of rain. So again, we're beginning to see the heaviest rain move through. There's even heavier rain out here toward Edna just within this past hour or so. Down in the Rockport area, we're looking 10 to 12 inches of rain. So again, this is just the initial start, and we're going to see 3 days of this. And again, just within the last few hours, we've got those 3 inches of rain out across the area. So imagine what the totals could be if it continues to rain for about 3.5 days over the same spot over and over again. That's why we're a little bit concerned about how much rain we could actually see in this area all the way through Monday. So again, we're going to do our best to kind of give you the best numbers that we got coming up, give you the better idea of exactly what's coming your way. Understand that the models have not handled it well, and so it is difficult for us to give you a specific number. It is difficult for us to give you a specific time because the system, again, is a little bit on the wobbly side. It is still intense and is moving very slowly at this time. So it makes it a little difficult to come up with a trajectory and to give you a perfect path. But know that generally we're thinking we're going to be seeing some pretty significant rain in this box right there.
And perhaps one of the most telling pieces of information that we have right now, and just the magnitude of this storm as it's working its way here, is that Corpus Christi was not even in the eye of the storm. Now, granted, it was in some of the heavier rings of the storm, but it was just to the west of that eye. And they, about an hour ago, were reporting about 155,000 people without power. 155,000 people without power, and that wasn't even the eye of the storm. We also had a lot of pictures coming through here showing you just the very few areas that some people were in before it's daylight, when only the first rings had hit before it had gone to the other side of the eye of the storm there in Port Aransas and also Rockport. So we are anticipating all of that coming in. We have gotten a few questions here on Facebook, and several of them coming in, and a lot of people just really wanting to know the timing of this. And I can tell you, we've been doing this since we came in at noon. Yes, yeah, at noon today. So over 12 hours, 13 hours now going on. Alex, Ryan, myself, and our entire team here, and Siobhan also, and then all the other many talents at our station and crews working on this around the clock. And I can tell you though, just since even 9 o'clock, we've watched this thing move very, very slowly. And it seems to me like an hour, maybe 2 hours ago, we saw the very outer band in Floresville. We now actually see the outer band on top of Floresville. Right. So people are saying, well, when is this going to arrive? Well, it's taken an hour, maybe 2 hours to even just move the Floresville into that full band there. So it is very slow moving, to just reiterate and drive home that point.
Yes, moving at about 7 to 8 miles an hour, it's going to take a long time to move in, but it's finally getting here, and it's not picking up much speed, but we are getting reports, Castle Hills area. Rose says that the winds are beginning to pick up there, and so that's what we're looking at. Alvin says, so you guys missed this one. We did not miss it. We told you it was going to be significant rain to the east of San Antonio and not so much out to the west. And so, Alvin, you may be in an area where you're not seeing the rain right now, but chances are you're going to be seeing some rain coming up pretty soon.
Correct. And Edward Xavier Maldonado says they need sleep. No, we train for this. We're here right now.
We're here
gonna
for
sleep.
this. We're absolutely here for this.
I do want to bring up a little extra information here. It's all about giving. It's all about helping your neighbor. And you certainly, there's certainly going to be a lot of people in need in our community. And if not here, certainly south of us. In the spirit of San Antonio of giving and lending a helping hand, the governor mentioned a few really important items needed by people along the coast. So we're partnering with Orange Theory Gyms and Church Unlimited on Hardy Oak Road to get your donations to them. You can bring bottled water and juice, canned food, plastic garbage bags, and diapers to any of the Orange Theory's 7 locations in town tomorrow morning between 7 a.m. and noon, and they will get that shipped to the Church Unlimited down in Corpus to be distributed. They just ask that you not bring clothes or furniture. Now keep in mind, as we're watching the storm, this is between 7 and noon tomorrow. Just don't get out on the roads if you don't have to. There will be plenty of opportunities to give. We do certainly, if it's calm, if it's an opportunity, if this thing's already passed through, absolutely, we want you to be able to give. But as slowly as it's moving right now, we're going on 2 a.m. in another 39 minutes, and this thing might be right on top of us.
It could be.
At that time.
It could be a lot closer than what it is. We just got an interesting comment here from Jenny Barrientos. She says she lost all contact with her family in Robstown and in Corpus Christi.
And give us an understanding
okay.
of Robstown. Where is that?
Robstown is just north of Corpus Christi, not very far. So again, there may be a number that we can find at some point to send you, Jenny, so that you can call and maybe try to find out what happened to your family members, if they're okay or not. We'll research that and see if we can get that for you at some time. It may not be tonight, but we'll try and get it early in the morning as much as we can for you there. Again, another report from Castle Hills that the winds are beginning to pick up right there. Myra says there's nothing off of General McMullen in Castroville. Yeah, you're a little bit farther out to the west. Your wind chimes are quiet now, but we're thinking that, at 1:22 in the morning, let's say by 3:22, those wind chimes may be actually moving around. Let's see, we're starting to get some wind and rain north of Austin. Hondo is windy, breezy, and smells like rain, says Kim. No rain in 78238. No rain in 78214. You guys know your zip codes. That's pretty good. But in any case, yeah, there's no rain in those 2 zip codes yet. But we're anticipating that before you wake up early in the morning, you're going to have rain in your zip codes. So get ready for that. Wind picking up at Canyon Lake, says Art. And not a drop of rain here on I-10 and De Zavala. Yeah, you're just a little too far west yet. It's just now beginning to move into southeast Bexar County. Give it a little time and it will be there. Rebecca says just be concerned for everybody's safety. Absolutely. So you got to be careful out there. Erlene wants to know if they can be safe driving home tonight. Yes, I think so. Windy
at least for the
151.
next few hours, or yeah, maybe hopefully next hour.
Next couple of hours you should be good. After that, maybe not. Windy at 151 and Hunt Lane. All right, that's Westover Hills. And so Jenny's putting prayers out for everybody. And what do we expect in Pleasanton? We're expecting wind, and we're expecting some rain. And some of it, depending on the final location, some of it could be a little interesting there. You may get some heavy rain. We're going to watch those bands kind of move in tonight and get a little closer to you, but it's going to be a slow thing. They're not going to happen within the next 10 minutes or so. So
one of the other questions that has come in is people said, okay, is this going to be a Category 4 when it hits us inland at San Antonio? That would be highly unlikely at this point, but what you could see, and Alex has done a good job demonstrating this, is that as it slows down, it could still hit San Antonio as a Category 1 hurricane. So that is significant winds that could still be hovering over us. With this being a lingering storm, the damage that could do, we certainly want you to be prepared for that.
Absolutely. And we've been saying it all week long that we'd rather you be over-prepared than under-prepared.
Absolutely.
It's better that you get ready for it.
All right, well, let's take a look at what some of our other viewers are also mentioning. We're getting more and more reports from several of you about it just getting a little bit windier in your area. And also you can text 44332. 44332. You can text your pictures and your videos there. Please do not take pictures in unsafe circumstances. This is if you happen to obtain them in a safe situation, and you're welcome to send them there, and it gives us permission to also show them on air, or you can give us also permission to do that, because it helps us also know what areas may be a little more difficult to navigate for other viewers who are trying to get back in their homes once the storm has hit.
Exactly. And you know, tomorrow morning, some people are asking, can we go to work tomorrow morning? It all depends on what the rain pattern's like tomorrow morning. Again, moving pretty slow, but it may be a little interesting drive if you have to drive to work. Again, we're going to be watching the path of this in the overnight hours. Sean's going to be here and through the early mornings watching this and guiding you through the system as we're watching the rain build. Now, again, the models are all over the place when they show just how much rain we're going to get. We've got several models that we're looking at. We're trying to figure out the best numbers for you so that we can give you those numbers. But know that we're generally expecting some pretty good rain, heavy rain from San Antonio eastward. Everything west of San Antonio, you may not see that much rain. It will depend on the eventual pathway of the low itself, of the eye, and where it's going to end up. So that's going to be the primary thing. And right now, the pattern that we're looking at takes this thing right up here in between Victoria and Goliad near Cuero, comes back around right in this area here, then goes back to Corpus Christi. That's the pattern that we're seeing, but that pattern's not going to happen in one day. Saturday's going to be here, Sunday's going to be here, Monday's there, and this is Tuesday. And so that's why we're saying it's going to be significant rain, because it's going to take 2 or 3 days for it to make that loop. And while it's doing that, it's going to be raining and raining and raining and raining.
I think we should call this an event,
yes,
and not just a storm. It seems like this Hurricane Harvey wants to take its sweet time over South Texas, for sure. I do want to mention that all almost basin gates are closed. There's a lot of low-lying areas in that part of town, so that is why they're already closed. Please do not pass the barriers, turn around, don't drown, but also you get fined. And I also want to mention, we have a few other comments here. Pedro Mariscal, thank you for your coverage. It is our pleasure to be able to help you in this time of need for our community. I also want to mention Isaiah Garza says that downtown San Antonio, Texas is receiving some high winds. Our Michael Locklear has been out all night at the Emergency Operations Center in Leon Valley on the west side of town. Michael, what's the latest there?
Well, if you were watching earlier, you saw us talking to Blake Wade. He's the emergency management coordinator for the city of Leon Valley. He's been watching the slow approach of this storm, and he actually just headed out to get onto the road in case, you know, the rain starts to fall. He'll have a good idea of what the situation is. I'm joined now by Eric Burnside. He's the deputy fire marshal here in the city of Leon Valley. What have you been seeing with the creek level right now?
So the creek level has stayed steady. We have not gotten very much rainfall in Bexar County in the past 12 hours. The rainfall that we did receive earlier today ended up bringing our creek level up significantly, and it has receded somewhat. Unfortunately, the ground is water soaked, and we do currently have water in our creek, but not enough to shut down our roads at the present moment.
Okay, can we go ahead and take a look at this map here and show me, if you would, where some of the flooding issues are going to be? First, give us the lay of the land. This is Huebner Creek.
Sure, of
This
course.
is Bandera Road.
So this is Bandera Road right here, and here's Huebner Road. So Huebner and Bandera Road meet up here. So just south of that is where Huebner Creek runs through, and it starts in San Antonio, runs through Leon Valley, and goes back into San Antonio, and Timber Hill will be on this side. Our major flooding is over here where Evers Road, just south of Huebner, is, and Evers and Poss kind of intersect right there. This section of our city is what gets flooded the most. This is our primary concern, even though the whole creek basin is a huge concern for us, but the most residents that are most flood prone are in this area right here.
Okay, and in Bandera Road, we've talked about that's a major commuter route on the northwest part of Bexar County, but not typically an area that floods.
Correct. It does flood. It's happened a few times in the history, but it takes a significant amount of rainwater. Hopefully this event does not produce that amount of rain. If it does, we are prepared to do whatever's necessary to make sure that the public is safe for this type of situation.
Now, you just had a flooding event a couple of weeks ago there with, I think, just 5 inches of rain, right?
Correct.
And what was the situation there? Take us back and what you saw at that time.
So within a 2 to 2.5 hour period, the Hebner Creek ended up breaking its banks and encroached onto some houses. Didn't actually enter into some of the houses along where I just showed you, but it was to the point to where we did have to make evacuations. I want to say we had to evacuate 7 houses just due to the potential of those houses having interior flooding on them.
Now, people might want to test fate to get out into the water, but sometimes people don't realize that they're also putting the lives of the first responders at risk. Talk to me about it from that perspective.
So under no circumstance do we ever like seeing people near any type of water, especially flash flood conditions, not even to look, to take pictures, because those types of situations, it can rise feet within minutes. So with that being said, we just tell people stay away, don't even come close. We'll try to encourage people, move back, don't take pictures. It's just not a safe situation at all, especially with violent and turbulent weather.
Talk to me about some of the mistakes you've seen people make in past events. Is it typically people thinking they can make it through? Talk to me about some of the situations that have caused people to go into danger.
Sure. So a lot of situations, believe it or not, happen because people think, oh, yeah, I know it's raining, but, you know, the water's going to drain off or drainage will take care of it. Well, unfortunately, in our city, we have a huge problem with that. Just as it's been stated so many times in the past. So, for instance, in our park, people like to frequent the park. We'll have a brief downpour. Okay, no big deal. And next thing you know, the rain starts getting heavier and they try to wait it out. 30 minutes later, we're in the park trying to rescue them because that creek has ended up breaking its banks and it's pushing them out of the park.
So really, you want people to stay home as soon as the rain starts to come down?
In this current event with Hurricane Harvey, definitely. We know it's going to be a major event. I highly, highly recommend that if you don't have to get out, we don't want you to have to get out of the house. We don't want you traveling. We don't want you to put yourself or any first responders in jeopardy.
And you've even brought on more staff to handle this. It's an all-hands-on-deck situation.
Correct. So at this present moment, we have our Public Works Department, which usually is not a 24-hour operation for the city of Leon Valley. We've turned that into a 24-hour operation. We've also doubled our police staffing at the present moment and throughout this entire event. And we've also tried to double our fire department staffing throughout this entire event.
Okay, Eric Burnside, thank you very much. He's the Deputy Fire Marshal here in Leon Valley. And from what I've learned, a lot of these folks who have had to come in to make sure the public is safe have had to cancel some of the paid time off, the vacation. They have made changes to their schedule to keep the people in this area safe. And now they're just waiting for that slow approach. Again, the Emergency Management Coordinator of Leon Valley just hit the road about 5 to 10 minutes ago to take a look at the conditions and to report back and to be able to get a good handle on the situation as soon as it starts to become severe. Back to you.
All right. Well, thank you there, Michael. We're looking at all the comments that are coming through. We're going to try and answer your questions in a minute. But we are getting more high wind reports coming into San Antonio here. We've got the high winds, steep and some rain. We've also got reports here of thunder
people
and
saying
lightning.
It just got mean in several areas of town.
Exactly.
And when that starts to pick up, you know that we're starting to see Harvey make its imprint here in San Antonio.
It's already here, getting windy in the medical center now. So we're beginning to spread the wind across. And again, this is one of the models that we're looking for rainfall, and it's only one of them. You'll notice that the heavier rain continues to be out toward the east, but we do have rain here in Bexar County predicted by this model. Let me see if I can back this up, and we'll take a look at a couple of more as we get in here. There is the track, there is the radar. This is what we expect it to do. This is the best consensus that it does. There's the one, and notice it's up there in Wilson County, real close to Pleasanton. Then it swings around and goes back on down. That takes several days to do that. And as a result, we're going to be looking at increased chances of rain for the area. And again, there's one model that we were looking at. Pretty intense rainfall, and this may actually be too low. for some places, because once we see this, and we watch the final plan with this thing, if it gets right to the right position, we could actually see a lot more rain in San Antonio. It could actually double if it slides over our way just a little bit. So we're getting more reports here of wind picking up. Someone wants to know if we're going to see thunder and lightning in San Antonio or just heavy rain. We're probably going to see some thunder, a little bit of it, but not much. Tropicals don't bring too much in the way of lightning. They do bring a lot of wind and they do bring a lot of rain. So we may not see a whole lot of that. So let's see. Wind gusts maybe reached about 60 near Poteet. That's possible. Getting pretty breezy up there. Let's say, whoa, it's getting really windy here in the medical center. So again, we're getting reports there in the medical center of it getting a little bit more windy. So again, it's just beginning to get into Bexar County now. It's going to continue to spread over the next several hours. And so that means we're looking several hours of rain. So when they wake up early in the morning, it's not going to be like what they woke up this morning to.
That's right. We were just talking about the timeline for it because we have so many different people who are in and out of our station and also planning our commutes and making sure that we do it safely. And I know our Ernie Zuniga, our morning anchor, my former compadre, he will be here around 4:30, and Sean Stevens is going to be here probably in another 30 minutes as well to help out with this situation. And we were talking about, I was saying, should I encourage Ernie to come in a little bit earlier and such and such? But you were saying, actually, the brunt of it right now, from the timing that we're looking at, may come more around 6 a.m., around noon for us. Simply because it's moving so slow. We're going to see the beginnings of it now, and it's 1:30. And so another 2:30, 3:30, we'll see a little bit more. 4:30, 5:30, and we're going to see a lot more. 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, we could be in the mix of this stuff big time. And then as we said, once we start it, it's not going to stop. Right. It's going to be raining for 3 days. So that's what you can expect. I'll put that in motion. You can watch it move. Again, those bands that are coming around toward San Antonio were in Houston earlier, and those bands were triggering up some little tropical tornadoes. So that's going to be another little issue that we're going to see here. We're going to have the potential for that coming to the area. Now, Christina wants to know how Pleasanton is. Pleasanton should be getting a little breezy right now because Pleasanton, and I'll bring it right up there to the center part of your screen. There's Pleasanton sitting right there. You're right on the edge of getting really breezy and getting some tropical rain right into the Pleasanton area. So that's what Pleasanton is looking like right now tonight. Keep in mind this rain is going to continue to spread all across. James wants to know any models predicting tornadoes. The models don't predict tornadoes, but we do know that tornadoes sometimes can be embedded within these tropical systems. You can go back and look at all the history of these large major hurricanes like this, and all of them have tornadoes embedded within them. And they could be around tonight. They could be around tomorrow, as long as we have energy in the atmosphere to generate those things. As I'm looking at this model, would it be safe to say that Rockport has now gotten the double punch expected from one side of the eye and then the other side of the eye, and it's actually moving to a safer part of the storm now? Yeah, it's out of it's gotten its double punch. It's already out of that. So has Fulton. You can see that, but it's moved inland now, and even from the shore. Let's see if we can measure that out real quick. To the center part of that, it's traveled 30 miles already inland. Okay. And it has not broken down. It is not weakened. It's still at 130 miles an hour. But that last update on the 130 miles per hour came around 12:30. Is that correct? Around 12:30. Okay. And so we're expecting another one here about 2 o'clock or so. Okay. And that path has not changed. It's been on this type of path right there. So that means Goliad is in the mix for this thing for the eye to pass over. So is Yorktown. So Victoria and Cuero are going to be right on the edge of this as it begins to approach the area tonight. Again, we're looking at 130 mile an hour winds that could be coming through that area, particularly as you get up toward Goliad and back up into Yorktown. Victoria a little over to the side, but you're going to experience some of this as it gets through there on the evening hours. So again, we could see some of the heaviest rain here in San Antonio tomorrow during the day.
So that's one of the things that we have to consider. And if you've got anything planned for tomorrow, keep in mind that you probably shouldn't be driving around too much tomorrow at all once this gets started, because we're in the start mode now. This is going to be rain, and consider rain for the next several days.
All right, we do have some video from Rockport that came in a little while ago when the first side of the eye hit. So when Rockport was first getting hit, and this is the high school there. Initially, there were some reports that came in that it had just been basically cremated. The school had just basically been demolished from the storm. As you can see, though, a good portion of it has been, but a good portion of it is still standing. So, but there is significant damage to the school. It's hard to even understand exactly what portion of the school that is. This is Rockport, Texas. It took the center of that storm, the first side of the eye, now the second side of the eye has come through there. So they may have actually gotten those pictures when it was in the eye of the storm. So Alex made a great point a little earlier in the evening. He said that this is what the first side of the storm did. Then came the eye, the calm of the storm. And then the second part, the structures were already weakened. So there's no telling once we get in there tomorrow and we can see some of the damage over the next few days after those structures have already been weakened, what this is going to look like then. But these are some of the initial glances at the magnitude of that storm. And this is the high school there in Rockport. That's going to be just to your northwest of Port Aransas. And again, Port Aransas, Rockport, your hardest hit areas, and just to the west of Rockport and Port Aransas, you have Corpus Christi that's sitting with 155,000 plus customers without power in that area, and that wasn't even the hardest hit area.
Okay, good news. We just got an update here, and it's Harvey has now been downgraded to a Category 3 storm.
That's good news.
We're down to Category 3 storm from that earlier report that came out at 12:30. So now we're down to Category 3, which is good news. That means it's beginning to weaken, and finally getting in 30 miles inland. We were wondering at what point is it going to be weakened, but at Category 3 storms are still pretty strong. The winds are still pretty strong within that. So again, 110 mile an hour, that's nothing to kind of shake a stick at. Right now, Becky says Outages is good. Yes, it is, but shortly you're going to be experiencing some rain that can come through there. Now, Gigi wanted to know about Cuero. And right now, what we know about Cuero is that it's in the mix for some pretty heavy rain at this point. The hurricane bands are going through there. Right there, we'll put Cuero in the center of your screen so you can see it. There you go. And more than likely, there's been some pretty good rainfall within the last hour or so as these bands are moving through the area. So what we'll do for you, we'll show you the 1 hour storm totals, and we'll show you the 24-hour storm totals. So there you go. The rain is beginning to pick up. That area there in Cuero has gotten about 2.5 to maybe about 3¼ inches of rain so far. And more than likely that rain total is going to be a lot bigger by early in the morning. So Gigi, I hope that helps answer your question there about Cuero. So how's Outages? Outages is pretty quiet. Go right ahead.
Well, I wanted to bring up, you mentioned that it had been downgraded now to from a Category 4 to Category 3, that it hit the shoreline there as a Category 4, and as it moves inland, we anticipate it to be downgraded. That is what these hurricanes do. So we're anticipating going Category 3, then Category 2, and potentially hitting San Antonio still as a Category 1 hurricane. That is extremely significant. And the differentiation between a Category 4 and a Category 3, Category 4, and correct me here, Alex, but the Category 4 winds go between about 131 to 155 miles per hour, which we certainly saw. Now that it was downgraded to Category 3, those are winds around the 111 to 130 miles per hour. So this does not, we're applauding because this means a de-escalation in what's happening in the area, but it certainly doesn't mean that we're out of harm's way by any means.
No, I mean, this is still a dangerous storm. It's still dangerous winds, and those winds are headed up toward Goliad and the Victoria, Yorktown area. So again, at even 110, 115 mile an hour wind, that can do a lot of damage out there. So we're getting more reports in from some people I just saw.
Outages seems to be happy.
They're happy right now.
We're doing pretty well right now.
They're further west, so you guys are okay. But we did say that, I did see one where some wind was really picking up here. So yes, Shaban, it did drop down to a Category 3. We're good.
If you're just joining us, this is Alex Garcia. I am Jessica Headley. Ryan Wolf has been with us all night, and we are in charge of your Fox News at 9 p.m. throughout the week, and we are going to be here again tomorrow, or rather I should say today, because we worked through the night. We're going to be here later this evening again, guiding you through all parts of the storm. But we also have some other members of our team, like Sean Stevens, Ernie Zuniga, and other members, our crews back there who are going to be coming in, relieving us until that time. So people are going to be here around the clock.
Absolutely. So we're going to be here 24/7 for you online. Make sure you got your phone and mobile devices all charged up, because we'll be with you throughout the day tomorrow. We saw one run here said, I think it was Emily, saying that the wind came so long it felt like it was ripping off her screens, her windows right off there. And she's in Balcones Heights, which is just across the way here from the station, not too far away. So will Hondo get anything, Jenny wants to know. Hondo's a little farther west, and right now, as it stands, Hondo may not see much, but you know you're right on the edge, and I'll put Hondo right there on the screen, and you can see it. There's Hondo. There's the edge of the rain. So you see, it's not very far away. It just has to come a little bit further over to the west, and yes, you will see something. It will get a little bit breezy out there. Southeast by Rigsby, no rain yet. That could change here in a little bit. Next to Mission Park in southeast, and wind is already 10 miles an hour, gusting. So it's already starting to pick up there as well. So again, get that set up. Angela says, correct update, it's landed twice in 3. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. It did make 2 landfalls as a Category 4, not a 3. So let's see who else has got here. May be late, but did the major flooding amounts go down? No, you know, we're looking at the different models, and we're showing them all to you instead of just one. We want to show you how difficult it is to kind of really predict how much rain we're going to get. There's one model that says 3 inches. There's another model that says 9. Another model that says 12. This one says 6. So we simply want to give you the point that when you look at models, you can't believe them, all of them, particularly in this type of situation. You've got to look more at a trend of the models. And the trend is showing heavy rain from San Antonio eastward, not so heavy rain from San Antonio westward. So that's the takeaway when we start looking at these models and we start looking at numbers. So don't focus on the numbers, focus on the colors, and that gives you a better idea of what to expect, what type of impacts we could see.
Can we go back to the rotating model here, because we're certainly starting to see that outer band, as I was mentioning, it was sitting on top of Floresville, but we're also starting to see that sitting on top of Pleasanton there as it's moved a little bit. And of course, like an hour or two ago, Pleasanton and Floresville were not sitting squarely in that area.
No,
and if that
they are now.
And they are now, right? And so that will move up there. We've had several people also ask about Hondo, but it is possible that that would shift up there to Hondo.
Very possible.
Right.
Very possible, and that's why we're trying to convey the fact that there's uncertainty in the forecast. There's a lot that could change in a matter of hours, and sometimes in a matter of minutes. And again, as you noted, Pleasanton now is in the middle of it. Floresville is in the middle of it. And we're going to see it move into southeast Bexar County. We're already getting the reports of the stronger gusts that are coming in that band. And the band hasn't arrived yet. It's just the wind that's arrived. And so the rain is not very far away. Okay, we've got a tornado watch out. It looks like that's for Corpus Christi, though. Let me double check on that.
Well, and as you're checking on that, if you're just joining us, we appreciate you joining us, and we hope that you will share this, because there are a lot of power outages already along the coastal regions. A lot of people need ways of getting information, and sometimes social media may be one of the only outlets that they have. And as that moves here, it will be the same case, most likely for us. So one of the other things he also mentioned about tornadoes is that as this storm moves, a lot of people said, how much of a heads up will we have on tornadoes? Well, something to keep in mind is sometimes they just create themselves within the outer bands of the hurricane, so they pop up, and as soon as those show up on our radar, he'll let you know. Would it be safe to say that those are some of the redder areas that will show up on those outer bands if we start to see that?
Yes, in those redder areas is where you see the little bit more of intensity that's going on. And the tornado watch is for Fayette, Lavaca, and Lee counties. This includes Giddings, LaGrange, and Hallettsville. And I'll bring those up here.
Yeah, let's do that.
We'll bring them up right into there. There's Hallettsville. There's Shiner.
Can you point out the coastline for us so people can?
Yeah, let me circle that city right there.
All right.
There's Hallettsville in the center. I'm going to pull this back out. And the coastline is right on the edge. You can see that right on the edge of the picture. So again, this storm system, it's the band that's now passing through Hallettsville, and it's what I said before. This thing came through Houston, came around. This is the same little band area right up into here that is spinning up. So these little guys, they have intensity with them, each one of these, and each one of these has the potential to maybe spin up a little bit of a tropical tornado. So that's why they've issued that tornado watch out. Again, it includes LaGrange and Hallettsville in that area right there. So you guys be on the alert. We're going to keep eye out for you and let you know if we see anything spin up out there really quick. Kimberly wants to know about Beaumont, Texas. Beaumont's too far east at this point. We'll have to wait and see if it actually circles around out into the Gulf. And if it does that and heads back in that direction, then Beaumont would definitely come back into the picture again.
You have a good spaghetti model that we've been showing throughout the evening and the early morning hours here of just all of the projections for the path of this. If we're able to maybe pull that up, that would be great, because most of the models, though, the concentration of them does circulate all around San Antonio.
It does, and there it is. That's all the models. That's why it's so difficult to figure out what this thing is going to do. It truly is a big bowl of spaghetti. And you have to go through and figure out, okay, which model is good? Is this one good? Is there errors in this one? Does this one take something else into that we don't know? So you have to wade yourself through this mess before you finally come up with something that you are confident in and believe in that this is going to happen. So that's where we get that model that kind of swings things around. And comes back up. Let me see if I can find that one again. These are let me back up through that. It's just blank. There it is. Let's get over to it. This is the model that we think is going to be accurate, going to a 3 to a 2, swinging around, and then coming back around along the coast, and then swinging back over, and that's where Beaumont may see something, but it looks like it would come in before that. And so maybe not so much for the Beaumont area. Strong wind now near SeaWorld, canopy nearly blown away. So that tells you that we're beginning to get the impacts here. Siobhan says, appreciate you being here to give us the information. Hope you'll be able to get some rest soon. Yeah, so do I.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Absolutely.
I do want to mention that right before we go back to the comments, that you have given us forewarning that this could hit San Antonio as a Category 1, and we've talked about right now it's a Category 3. It went from Category 4 to Category 3, moving inland.
Right.
And if it were to hit San Antonio as a Category 1, those are still winds between 74 to 95 miles per hour.
Yes, they still are, and it is still it's still quite dangerous. Even a Category 3, even a 2, it's dangerous. And a 1, you may not think, 60, 70 miles. That's dangerous as well. Mobile homes can be flipped over in a 65 mile an hour wind. So again, pretty dangerous out there. And again, that's the eventual track that we think it's going to take for tomorrow. But again, it's going to take several days to do that. And wind is picking up a little bit in the Groves. Kim says, thank you guys, going to try and sleep. We'll see what's happening when I wake up. More than likely it's going to be raining, that's for sure. All right, so again, we've got a lot of folks that are out there. Different tornadoes than the severe ones you usually see, not as strong, short-lived, absolutely. And they're more scary because it takes watching a radar like a hawk to be able to spot these things.
Sure.
Otherwise, they sneak up on you and they're there and boom, you've got a little tornado that's already come through the area. And again, these are just models. These are just, don't focus too much on the numbers, but focus on the fact that there's heavy rain from San Antonio eastward. That's the big important thing that we're looking at tonight as it goes through. So let's see, it's coming. Yes, we are expected to be here. Very unpredictable. They're doing their best to give us updates. Absolutely. incredibly unpredictable. We showed you that big spaghetti mess that we have to wade through to figure out what's going on. So it's a best guess. It's not exactly what will happen. We have confidence that this is about the best we can come up with, given all the information we have, and given the fact that this storm is not your typical storm. It's atypical a bit.
We've seen some people ask on here also, what about New Braunfels? What about Austin?
Right.
And New Braunfels could certainly see its fair share of this as well, as with some of the projected models, the outer rings of it, and then of course if it were to swing it all to the right. So.
Yeah, it doesn't take much before you've got rain that's right up on your corner, and of course it's right there. And earlier we were saying, we drew a box. You just draw that line right through Bexar County on the West Bexar County line and go eastward. And again, it's an equal opportunity storm. Everybody's going to have the opportunity to see some rain.
Can I not be included in this one?
Well, it's equal opportunity. Everybody gets an opportunity to get some rain. And so I think everybody's going to see it when you wake up early in the morning. It's definitely going to be on the west side.
Be a different scene. Well, someone asked if it for sure it was going to be rain. Let's go ahead and say 99.9% chance that you're going to see some rain tomorrow somewhere. All right, we have our Michael Locklear, who is at the Emergency Operations Center there in Leon Valley. Michael, what can you tell us now?
Jessica, we're starting to feel the first few drops of rain. They're very inconsistent, but just a little drizzle here and there. We just stepped outside the Leon Valley Fire Department, also serves as their Emergency Operations Center. About 15 minutes ago, we heard what sounded like heavy rain, but came out and realized that it was just the wind. The wind has started to pick up. Still relatively calm, but the strongest we've seen since we've been out here this evening. To give you a sense, you can see the flags up there. Just kind of swaying in the wind as this storm approaches. One thing that the first responders here in Leon Valley will be considering is presetting those barriers at the low-level water crossings. Usually they have to deal with traffic and potentially high water to set those out, but because this is starting in the overnight when traffic is relatively light, they are considering going ahead and putting out their barriers. That would be at 4 streets here and 7 gates. This is a small community on the northwest side of Bexar County, but of course the emergency response is heightened in other parts of the county as well, and that may be a strategy that they're employing as well. About half an hour ago, the emergency management coordinator has set out. He got in his vehicle and went out to keep an eye on the Hebner Creek and some of the other problem areas, just to be on the front lines here as the rain is coming in to get a real sense of the situation and to be able to deploy the resources. A lot of the firefighters are, in that dormitory type area where they're of course ready to respond, and it might be needed, of course, once the rain starts to come, that they have to get going. So still seems like the calm before the storm, but the response level is heightened just a bit, and we are starting to see some of the rain.
All right, perfect. Michael Locklear, we appreciate you joining us. I imagine things are going to pick up there quite significantly here very soon, so I know you'll stay on top of it. Thanks, Michael. All right, well, I want to also bring to your attention, we talked with Barry Pettis of NISD a little bit earlier this evening, and he did mention that all activities for Northside ISD are off for the weekend, but they are going to wait until Sunday to call off any school. So we'll be staying in touch with them about that information as well. We also have several of you who are writing in on Facebook right now, and I want to give you a thank you to you guys as well, because several of you have been very gracious and kind, saying thank you for keeping us up to date. Thank you for what you're doing, and it's you that makes it meaningful, and that's why we're here. And so I'm just glad to know that it can be of help, that we're staying here and bringing you this information. We also have a lot of questions coming in, and that also helps us better supply you with the information that you need.
Absolutely, and we're trying to get through some of these so we can answer them up. We've got a lot of folks saying prayers for those in Rockport. Is it still going to come towards Louisiana? As far as we know, Louisiana is still in there. We had a couple of comments wanting to know if it was going to get to Beaumont and when it was going to get to Beaumont. We're not confident that it's going to get to Beaumont. You may not see anything from there yet. Pleasanton, Jourdanton area, not a drop yet, but you know what? I'd say within 15 minutes you're going to change your mind there, and there's going to be some rain. As the storm moves across the land, decreases in strength, Could the warmth of daytime cause an increase in intensity? You know, it could. It could definitely take that daytime heating and use it up. So again, that's one of those things. Next door to SeaWorld, yeah, you're probably going to see some rain here coming up. 78227 says it's barely windy. It will change shortly. We're watching the band now just beginning to enter eastern Bexar County and beginning to move across the area. Jonathan says Marbach is gusty winds. I was driving and throwing the car off to the side. So that is a little bit breezy if we're looking there right now. So again, everybody's going to have an equal opportunity to see some rain. It's starting right about now. It's going to move across the county. It will be a challenge to forecast the exact timing because of the system slowing down and then wobbling around a little bit, but we do feel confident that it is going to rain in Bexar County. So if you're not expecting rain, you'll change your minds pretty quick because you'll see it coming up really fast. Winds picking up, says Maricela over at SeaWorld. And videos of Rockport. Angela wants to see more videos of Rockport. Not sure if we have any more videos, but if we do, we'll try and bring them up and play them for you here in just a minute.
All right. I'm also, if we're able to bring up the CPS energy map, I would love to do that. We're showing a large area in China Grove actually already showing signs of power outages there. So I know that we're accessing that currently. A large yellow area, meaning 50 to about 500 people. That would be right on target with some of our Facebook viewers who said in China Grove that they were dealing with some outages there. So you're looking at 50 to about 500 people in that area. All of your green areas are about 1 to 50. So those power outages are starting to pick up exactly as we expected. So, and we also anticipate those to pick up quite significantly over the next several hours in the area. If we also have an opportunity, I'd like to pull up damage of the Rockport High School because this is one of the best, clearest images that we have right now that we have received of any damage in the area along the coastal region that received the blunt force of the impact of the eye of the storm. So I know that we're working on retrieving that right now, but initial reports went out about the high school in Rockport that it basically was completely demolished and collapsed. But what we know officially is that part of the roof has collapsed on part of that high school, but still significant damage. And these images that are coming in were after the first side of the storm actually hit Rockport, and then it went through the eye of the storm and the calm. We have not seen what this high school looks like after the second side of Hurricane Harvey walloped that area. And a lot of concern also coming in for coastal towns like Port Aransas tonight, which is a destination for a lot of travelers and tourists vacationing, and also for people who live down there. And we have yet to see many images coming out of that, especially as they never had the relief of the eye of the storm, but we're sitting in the inner rings of Hurricane Harvey.
All right, so there we gave you some pictures out there from Rockport. Angela, we hope that helped you out a little bit. We've got some more comments coming in, more prayers, wanting to know about 78227. Wind just picked up and the windows are shaking a little bit hard. See, so we're starting to see it move into Bexar County already. And we've got a thanks from Elise for answering the questions. That's what we're here to do, and we have the time to do that on the live stream because we can see your comments, and it makes it a little different than just being on live on television for you. Adrian wants to know if it's bigger than Katrina. No, it's not bigger, but it is intense, and it has a lot of the same intensity that Katrina does. Katie wants to know if it gets back over the Gulf, how intense could the hurricane get? It depends on how long it stays over the Gulf. And if it stays over the Gulf long enough and gets out there, then it could re-intensify big time. But if it's only a short time, then it won't do very much to anything at all. The good news right now here in San Antonio, we're looking at some fairly calm roads. We have discouraged everyone from driving if it's not absolutely necessary. But the good news is we have had a few questions about if I absolutely need to drive right now, can I? It's pretty calm out there right now. We don't encourage you to get out on the roads. If you had to go somewhere, now is better than a few hours from now when that thing is going to be sitting on top of us if it follows some of the potential projections like it has been to move up to our area. And we're already seeing those outer rings lingering on top of Floresville and Pleasanton right now. And again, we're watching, if we can bring up that radar, we can watch the rain bands now moving a little bit closer in, getting into southeast Bexar County at this point. And we're going to be watching those bands move through. over the next hour. Sean Stevens is here. He's over there at the weather computer, micing up and getting ready to go.
He's taking his time. Oh, I love that. I love that picture.
There's Sean.
We just had you on camera miking up.
We got your best side there, Sean.
I actually have not seen Sean since the morning show, like 3 or 4 months ago. So I feel like I'm saying hello to her brother that I haven't seen for a few months. So I'm so excited that he had to wake up early and he's coming in to relieve me.
So Sean's going to be with you here through the night. He's going to be watching it and tracking it. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow to keep this going. This is 24/7. Once we start, we're not stopping. We're going to give you the updates all the way across on our Hurricane Center Live channel.
That's right. And I know that, as you mentioned, we're going to be back a little bit later today, but Sean and Ernie and several other members of the crew, also several of our News 4 partners are going to be in and out. We've already seen Delane Matthew, Randy Beamer, Albert Flores have also been helping chime in with all of this, and Siobhan Anders as well. So all of our crew is here on standby to help you, and I imagine in just a few hours we're going to start seeing more pictures come in as well, and they're going to need a lot of volunteers. I want to encourage you to use 211. That was something we heard mentioned in Leon Valley for finding shelters that actually do take animals, and shelters that you can go to with your furry four-legged friend or your furry, your puppy, your kitty cat. Call 211. They may be able to help you there. Also, 311 is a good way to volunteer your time. There is a training workshop in the morning for some volunteers. We'll see if that actually happens with the storm coming through. But 311 is a good resource for that. Also, 1-800 Red Cross is another good resource. They need volunteers. And also, if you need shelters, go to 200 Gimbler Road. That is a destination where they are then sending you to the appropriate shelter for your area.
All right, we've got a comment here from Shauna in Seguin. She says, just went out to the patio, looked up at the sky. I've never seen clouds move so fast in my life. It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time. I understand that. Crystal wants to know, can it come back on land once it gets in the Gulf? Absolutely. And let's see, James says, Rockport and Port A is such a great vacation spot. We'll see what's left of them. Wendy in Helotes now. We did have some question here. I just saw one. Is there any information about shelters in shirts? Do we have a number for that? I hear you.
Shelters and shirts. I'm thinking of calling, most people end up going to 200 Gimbler Road, and I was thinking of calling the 311 as well for a little more information in the area on that. I would encourage them to go to foxsanantonio.com, and there's more information there on some of the areas that have been evacuated and whatnot. So I'm going to depart and say adios. Sean woke up bright and early, and I want to make sure that you're welcome. Yeah, well, I want to make sure that you get full use of waking up super early to come in and help us with the hurricane coverage.
Well, at least there's something to talk about, right?
Oh, there's plenty to talk about. Yes, and Alex has been here for several hours. I know you were doing this yesterday, so good luck. I'll be back a little later.
All right.
Okay, have fun.
Have fun. All right. Here we are. Randy Beamer's here. Come on in, Randy. It's your turn.
Oh, he's here to fill in. All right.
He's here to fill in. All right. We're going to let you take it, and we're going to turn it over to Sean and Randy here. And again, Sean, we've been looking at it on the radar. And the big thing is we're getting a lot of reports now from places in eastern Bexar County. They're saying the wind's starting to pick up, getting really scary. That one comment said, I just went out in the patio, looked up to the sky, never seen the clouds move so fast. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's getting windy out there.
Yeah,
it wasn't raining when I came in. I didn't see any rain, but it was, the winds are starting to really pick up, and you can tell that something's brewing, and it's coming.
It's coming, absolutely. Going to be coming throughout the day. So it's all up to Randy now. I'm going to pack up and move and give Randy this seat. It's all yours.
And you're going to have to give me.
And I'm going to have to give you my mic too. So
all right.
Hopefully somebody will get the mic here without making too much noise. How's that?
Well, we appreciate people watching live, and thank you very much, Alex Garcia. I have worked with since we were both 14.
Yes.
Back in the early 80s, and you have done a great job. And we want to welcome the people who have been watching Sean. By the way, on News 4 San Antonio, we were live on there until just about 2 o'clock. We're going to go live on the air on News 4 San Antonio, by the way, at about 5:30, and we've been showing some pictures down from the Rockport Fulton area. If I can get an earpiece in now. we can check with that.
Yeah, and that's without any daylight. When the sun comes up, those winds die down. We can get out, get video, and video sent back. I'm sure we're going to get some
we had been
terrifying shots.
Looking at some earlier of the Rockport, Fulton area. There's some damage at the Rockport High School, and that has really, there it is right there. This off and on had been reported as leveled. It had been reported as collapsed. The sheriffs down there, the sheriff's department wasn't able to get out there, so they couldn't confirm it. So for a couple of hours, people weren't sure. And that's why there were reports of
just that shot there,
because,
you would think the whole building is destroyed.
And these storm chasers, and you've been out doing this kind of thing as a meteorologist, people might wonder, why in the heck would you do this?
That's a pretty good question. It's obviously for them, it's a rush. You know, it's just the thrill of it. Of course, you know, it's also getting out there and getting the word out as far as what's going on, and if you can help save lives, that is a huge part of it as well. You want to be able to help folks get an understanding of what's coming and what is hitting, and why you need to follow those evacuation orders when you do see this damage. And this is just very isolated spots that we're able to see just when you catch a little break in the storm, when you got the eye overhead and get out and get some shots. But most of the time, you can't get out. You can't be shooting video or even sending it back to stations for folks to see. But you know, you can see all that debris flying around. That is a scary scene there.
And Sean, you were in yesterday, obviously in the daytime, and it was a whole different forecast. When you come in at this point, you look at the maps compared to when you left yesterday. How surprised were you when you saw what this has done or not done?
Well, yesterday morning, when I came in real early at about 3:30 in the morning, it had become a Category 2 storm. And it stayed at 105 mile, 110 mile an hour winds all through about noon. Mm-hmm. And then it finally picked up to a Category 3. I think it was about 1 to 2 o'clock. So we had all morning long where it really didn't strengthen at all. So that had us thinking, well, all right, maybe this won't get that big. It's just not doing anything this morning. Well, then when we saw it went to a Category 3 pretty quick, and then all of a sudden, I think it was a 4 o'clock hour, it was a Category 4 or 5 o'clock hour. It was a Category
3, but it didn't go to a 4 until very, very close to landfall, which is kind of unusual from what I understand, because you think it would dissipate when it hit. You know, when a big part of it is already across land.
And we really didn't expect that Category 4, especially as we were just saying, it was getting so close to land, didn't have a whole lot more room over the waters, and it wasn't picking up speed that quickly throughout the day, but it just exploded right before making landfall, and still a Category 3, and now the eye is completely over land. And we still have the southern half of that storm now battering the coast, bringing in more rain, and now it's blowing winds in an opposite direction as what it had before the eye. So a lot of the trees that may have been able to withstand the winds that were coming out of the east to northeast, now we're going to get a south or west-southwest wind, and well, maybe the roots could survive, could hold them up for one way, but maybe not the other. So a lot more damage will be happening, or even for structures and roofs with winds coming in at a different angle. You can see a lot more damage that didn't happen the first time around, especially waterlogged.
Between the 1 and 2 o'clock hour, it kind of took, according to the National Weather Service, a little northwesterly direction. Again, one of those things I don't know, is that good news or bad news? It's going to head toward San Antonio, more people, but it could dissipate faster, possibly? Is that a possibility?
It's all a possibility. Right now, it's just so hard to say what this storm is going to do, where it's going, without a clear steering mechanism, strong upper-level winds to say this is where this storm's going to go and this is how fast it's going to go.
Right.
With it stalling and just coming to a halt, it's kind of like I blow bubbles with my kids in the light breeze, and we try to figure out where the bubble's going to end up, but you never know. I mean, sometimes those bubbles turn left, they turn right, they go up, they go down, and it's almost impossible to forecast those movements, and it's almost the same thing with this hurricane.
The amazing thing is that we are able to forecast as far out as we do with this kind of thing.
Yeah, but the track's been right on with the forecast. The intensity, it's got a little bit stronger than we wanted. But
and now, what are the things that are going to push this thing one way or the other. There's those high pressure systems to our north, northwest, and northeast, and that's why it's kind of boxed in.
That's why it's not going to go much further north.
Are they going to be affected by anything else in the rest of the country?
Not anytime soon. There's no big changes within the next 2 or 3 days with that particular instance, which means that's why it's just going to meander, then take a little turn backwards, and then most likely push off to the east.
And nothing coming up from the mountains of Mexico from the southwest that we sometimes see pushing stuff through.
And nothing that's going to be, that we're expecting is going to be significant. It's going to haul this thing out of here in a hurry. So
any good news as we look at that?
The good news is we're still dry in most of San Antonio. So we have not hit the heavy rains yet. We're still on the dry side of this hurricane, but it's going to start to work closer, and I think as it does weaken, and I do think the intense rain will begin to spread out a bit more, and we will see the rain here in San Antonio. And I do expect today to be a very wet day, and with the threat of flash flooding, it's going to get pretty dicey in many spots.
As a forecaster, sometimes I know you hear from people, well, you guys, you were scaring us to do this. I know along the coast there were differences of opinion between some of the mayors in that area about whether they should call for mandatory evacuations or voluntary. Turns out the people in the Rockport, Fulton area where there were mandatory evacuations, well, they were right. In Corpus Christi, where it was voluntary, it looks like the people there dodged a bullet. Yes. What do you tell people in this area as they have to make decisions, the people in the Emergency Operations Center, the schools, people telling them to be off the roads, and people look out the window and say, hey, I haven't had any rain, get off my back, I'm driving wherever tomorrow. But then those rain bands can come in like that, and the rain comes sideways at you.
Yeah, and you can catch everybody off guard. So we still have to prepare for the worst and expect that very heavy rainfall. And you can see over my shoulder, this is still right down there. I mean, the eye is just over land, but it's still right along the coast. And you can see those outer bands. It's a very powerful, small storm. You get them very compact. That's when you get the real strong storms, and that's why it was a Category 4. But as it weakens, I do expect those rain bands to start to spread out, and as it begins to break up a bit, although I think we're going to see it keep that very fine rotation for a while here to come, and before it begins to break up. But by the end of the day, hopefully we'll be talking about Tropical Storm Harvey and not hurricane. But as I mentioned, right now it is a Category 3 storm, and those rain bands, they're going to stay very heavy, keep that rain very heavy, because it's still going to be drawing up moisture and wrapping it all the way around.
And a lot of people always wonder, okay, how does this compare to the storm that I remember? I remember I was after Ike in Galveston. I remember I was after Celia or Carla or Katrina. How do you see this one comparing? Because it's really so different.
Well, I remember coming into work. I was actually in Spokane, Washington, and getting into work first thing in the morning after Katrina had hit, and I was seeing a national package. It was I don't know who the reporter was, but he was standing in the Superdome and said, "Well, it really looks like New Orleans dodged the bullet on this one," and that was before the sun had come up. And we all know that they did not dodge that bullet.
In New Orleans now, it was a matter of the levees failing, and that was a big problem there, and there was a surge. But then east of there along the coastline, there was a lot more damage in a wider spread area. So in this case, the damage from the winds and that kind of thing isn't going to be as widespread, but the damage from the rain.
That's what, and
flooding, that's going to be the problem.
Well, you may have just seen just a little bit ago, the track of it. So it has it going north, moving a little bit northwest, and then it's going to drop back down. It has it dropping right back down over to Corpus Christi area. So we just mentioned Corpus Christi didn't get hit all that bad, but it's going to have a tropical storm parked on it here over the weekend.
And then when it gets back down there, we talk about the center of it, the eye, it won't, is there still a possibility of being an actual eye still as it passes back down?
There will be, we will be able to see the center of rotation. There won't be a clear, distinctive eye like we're seeing now with a hurricane.
Won't be the calm in the middle of the storm.
You won't have, so there will be calm, but there will still, it'll start to turn into a dirty eye where we'll have, it'll be completely cloud covered, and there will start to be some showers within the eye. It won't be all that distinctive once it does die back down into a tropical storm, but there will still be a little bit of calm in the center of it. But not as calm as with a hurricane or as clear as a hurricane.
It is a rare thing for a hurricane to go into land and then wobble around and come back out, as I understand it. And there's even a term for some kind of meteorological term about a storm that passes through landfall once and then goes back out.
You know, there is. I can't think of it right now.
I can't think of it either.
I do know it was several years ago that there was a hurricane / tropical storm that hit Florida technically 3 times. And I went in, crossed Florida, and then came back across. So it's happened before.
Florida. This
so Florida's small, you know,
yeah.
and it went back over ocean to re-intensify and then come back in. But this is just not the typical thing. They usually hit land and then they're picked up by the upper level winds and taken off.
So we think, I mean, at least I do, and I am wrong all the time, but when it goes out into, say, up to I-10, and it hits I-10 and it starts wobbling around, it goes down south again and crosses. How much more can it intensify again there? It's already taken some of the warmth out of the water.
Well, that's true. So the water's going to be cooled. So it's dropped all that cool rain into the water right off the and a lot of it. And then, of course, you're going to get all the flow out of the rivers and the creeks that are going to be massive amounts of flow into the Gulf. So the water won't be as warm, but it's still it would be warm enough to keep it as a tropical storm. And if it gets completely back over the Gulf, though, then it can definitely re-intensify.
And when it does that, is there any way to tell the spreading? I mean, that far out, it's hard to tell a path even for the next 24 hours.
It is.
Alone
And
days.
what we call our cone of uncertainty, when you see the little track on our tracker for the hurricanes, you know, it's real narrow as it comes in on the forecast, and then it gets into land and it just goes and it explodes. It goes all the way to the Mexican border to the west and out to Louisiana to the east, which means it could do anything. So that's without a steering wind to really give us a true idea of where it's going to go. We just are going to wait for this thing to sit and spin and see where it ends up. But the general consensus, it will push off to the east towards the Houston area eventually.
Well, this is just fascinating. Again, if you're just joining us, thank you for joining us. This is combined resources of News 4 San Antonio and Fox 29 here in San Antonio. We're on TV down in Corpus Christi right now. We are on across the country at news4sa.com and Fox 29. KBB.com. We're getting a lot of questions, and I want to ask you some of those questions. Some of them deal with, of course, specific places. Okay, Refugio, how much rain am I going to get? Okay, you know,
a lot. I haven't. Yeah, I just came in. I just woke up probably about 45, 50 minutes ago, so I haven't had a chance to check all those rain totals. But I was hearing we're looking at the hardest hit areas have seen obviously 7, 8, 9 inches of rain. And there's a lot of places that don't have automated sites, and of course, even those spots that get hit the worst, there's no power right now, so we could get the automated information even if we had it.
And people have also asked about, you know, getting ready for this. We had talked earlier in the week about disaster preparation kits. The Health and Human Services Department had put out news releases about this and that, and you know when to go into your shelter in the middle of your house. Since this is such a tight, small storm, the people who should be concerned about that right now are in a very small area. And as maybe we can pop that up on the screen again, how many people should be doing that in the area right around the eye?
Yeah, obviously the strongest winds are going to be on the northeast. The northeast side of the storm. So that's where you're going to see the strongest winds, the heaviest rain. So right now we're talking about Goliad area, out there towards Victoria, Sea Drift, and even Rockport now on the back side. You see it's on the back side of the storm. So now the winds are coming back around in this direction. As mentioned, the opposite direction. So when it first came in, the storm, of course, you have the winds coming in from the east, southeast. Now they're coming in from the the west-northwest on the backside. So they're going to be a little bit weaker than the north side, but still obviously hurricane strength that close to the eye. There in the Rockport area. But the areas of concern right now are obviously still the areas that got hit the hardest. Rockport to Sea Drift, up to Victoria. Refugio is pretty much right in the center, or barely on the edge of the eye. And we're still seeing that very distinctive eye, obviously, there right over or just barely east of Refugio and north of Bayside. Bayside getting hit very hard. And so the winds in this area is still hurricane strength, still up to 100 to 115 miles an hour right around the eye. And then you spread out towards Sea Drift, you're probably down to the 70 to 80 mile an hour winds. Same for Goliad, that far out. And then expanding further out, I'm going to turn off these flash flood warnings because they're kind of covering up some of the information, some of our radar, but obviously flash flooding happening there on the coast. And to the northeast, you see all there's tornado warnings that are out there for the bright red boxes closer to Houston. And that's where you generally get the tornadoes with tropical systems, are out there in the northeastern quadrant of the storm. And that's where we've seen the most intense. That's where the lightning is. These tropical storms are so warm, they don't get the ice crystals in the upper levels or the hail that collide and create the electrical charge that produce lightning. You get out further from it, and you're a little further from the warmth of the core. That's where we're getting the lightning, and then that's also where you get the thunder, lightning, and the real severe weather with real severe storms.
How about
the
accumulation there over toward the Houston area? What's it going to be in that area?
They're expecting in that area 10 to 20 inches of rain, and many places. The same for Goliad, Cuero, and of course with it stalling out and just kind of parking, that's where it gets real scary. Let's see if I can put back up our. Sorry if this goes to black real quick. I'm trying to get the tracker up here. So we're going to. I'm going to take this out. Category 3 now, and as you can see, it's still a Category 1 there. Into Saturday night, Saturday night into Sunday morning. Now, I don't think we'll see it as a Category 1 that quickly. And it looks like some of these banners are going to be, unfortunately, blocking our view. But it's going to drop right back towards Corpus Christi. So that way, I would need to clean this map up, but to do that now.
But maybe, now, when you talk about Category 3, 2, at least right now, as it's closer down to a 3, if not already.
It is a Category 3, yes. 115 mile an hour sustained winds right around the eye.
But that's almost a technicality here because those sustained winds, at least in this hurricane, are so slender. That's such a
so we're just seeing them right around. You're going to see those hurricane, those 100 mile an hour winds in a very small area. And then, of course, on the outer bands, you still probably get up to 70 to 80 mile an hour winds at the strongest. But the gusts, there's still going to be gusts in there that could be 90 plus miles an hour, even in that outer segment. Now we're getting a brand new flash flood warning popping up there, right up near Goliad to Beeville. So obviously this rain is coming down in an immense amount. And San Antonio still hasn't seen much. Corpus, and it looks like a little bit of a lull right now. But I think Corpus is going to get hit the worst later today, tonight, tomorrow, as a tropical storm is expected just to settle back down right over the Corpus area. And as we were mentioned earlier, Randy, there won't be that distinct, clear, calm eye. Even if the center of the tropical storm's over you, you're still going to be getting rain even right over the eye, although the winds will be a bit calmer, or a lot calmer, actually.
When should we be looking at now? In the past, when should we be looking at the rivers rising and the flooding from that? Because if there's any good news compared to, say, the flood of '98, that came from the northwest, as I recall, from the north. And then you had walls of water when there was flooding up in the hill country, and it just came down into San Antonio along with the rain. Here we're not going to see walls of water, are we? We're just going to see like a general rise, maybe a rapid rise, but it wouldn't be coming down from the northwest where it's in the watershed.
Yeah, it's not gonna, exactly. So we're not going to see it coming, that huge amount of rain in the northern parts, and then it slowly working south like it did back in '98, flooding Victoria. Although it's basically, we're going to come from New Braunfels all the way up to Canyon Lake as far as the Guadalupe River goes, and rivers that flow down towards the coast in our area. So we're going to get a lot of water to the north, but there's also going to be a lot of water the entire way down those rivers. So it won't be, like you're saying, just all of a sudden a wall washing through. It's just going to be a steady, probably a quick rise of those rivers, because they're just getting fed the whole way through. And then they'll stay flooded for a while to come. After the storm leaves, there's going to be so much water still running off from the entire area that down around Nueces Bay, Corpus Bay, along the Guadalupe River through Victoria, it's going to stay extremely high. San Antonio River, very high for at least a week or more after everything is said and done, just because of how much water's getting dropped.
And how about in terms of damage? Now, yesterday, national news, probably about when you left here, and the national news just blew up with when it went to Category 2 to 3 and then to 4, that they were looking at possible, I guess it was maybe when it went from 2 to 3, that they were comparing this to Katrina in possible terms of damage. But in terms of monetary damage, doesn't look like it now, or does it? Because we have USAA, we have insurance headquartered here. A lot of people are going to be going into those affected areas directly and working with people. They had a tough time with the tornadoes. They had a tough time with the hail from last year. They've been through a lot.
Yeah, it's been.
Is this going to compare in any way to Katrina in terms of a monetary standpoint, or is it not wide enough?
You know, it's still too early to tell, because as we've been talking about, it's going to be very unpredictable with it stalling out, coming to a halt, and then just kind of lingering over the area. So it's just a matter of if it's going to compare to Katrina with a monetary amount. If it's over San Antonio or say Houston, and it parks or keeps the rain coming in the Houston area with the flooding, that's when we'll see the big amounts of money with those high populated areas, or even down towards Corpus if it parks on top of that. So far, the brunt of this storm, brunt of the damage has been in a little less populated areas.
Yeah.
There's obviously people are living there and they're losing their homes, they're losing their properties, which is horrible, but it's not a dense populated area so far.
And what are the other kinds of questions when this storm, you know, we started reporting on it days ago that it was going to be a possibility. It's definitely going to happen. As we get closer to it, the kinds of questions that you get turn to what? At my house, am I going to get rain?
Yeah, how much more, how much longer, I think is what's everybody say. When are we going to see the sun? When is it going to dry out? And of course, when it all leaves, they'll probably be asking, when's it going to come back? But I think a big concern right now, though, probably folks are thinking, okay, well, we haven't seen anything yet, but is it still bad? If you're in San Antonio, you're looking out the window and you haven't seen a drop of rain. Just to let you know, yesterday morning, the forecast models did not bring anything big into San Antonio that I was looking at until about 4 or 5 in the morning. So we're still not even at that point, which, as looking at the radar right now, those models may have been right on track as far as the big rain hitting San Antonio.
As overall. Why did it go?
And then it ended up with 13.5 inches of rainfall in San Antonio.
Well, why did it come so fast, do you think? Any particular reason that, because we had expected landfall, I thought it was going to be around midnight or so, and then it came in much earlier than that, several hours earlier.
And well, and then it blew up in strength too, which we weren't expecting. So that's how these hurricanes work. The general path has been pretty accurate, and actually it was pretty interesting back on, I believe, I'm losing my days now. So Thursday morning, where it made landfall, Thursday morning's forecasted track was dead on accurate. It then shifted it in the afternoon further to the east, and then came back yesterday to be more accurate. But I just thought it was interesting. It was more accurate about 36 hours out than it was 12 hours out.
Right.
But so these storms are a little bit unpredictable, but then nobody was predicting a Category 3 a few days ago.
No.
Even yesterday morning, we weren't predicting Category 4, and that's what it ended up as.
If you're just joining us right now, we have the combined resources of News 4 San Antonio, of Fox 29, of all the Sinclair stations really across the country. Sean Stevens here. And if you want to go ahead and maybe, I don't know, punch up a different map or look at a different
I got to adjust some maps because
you have to.
It's been so busy. Obviously, I'm just getting in, and things, our maps are a little bit kind of still not in the positions they need to be.
While we do that, if I could maybe catch
Randy.
some people up on what's been going on in San Antonio and how many people we have been helping here. At last report, we had hundreds of people in on buses from the Corpus Christi area. We had a couple of hundred people in that came in that are at the state hospital on the southeast side. We had 700 or so people that came in as of yesterday afternoon on buses from the Corpus Christi area, and we'd also had before that a couple hundred people that were sent to hospitals in this area, among them to University Hospital. And we can't thank the people enough at the Emergency Operations Center down on the southeast side at Brooks. We've been going to them on and off throughout the evening and into the night. And also, we had been talking earlier on the News 4 San Antonio side to the people at the Emergency Operations Center at Leon Valley, where they are also, again, concerned about more flooding as this thing develops, because if you're not from San Antonio, you don't know that they just had 10 inches of rain here about 2 weeks ago on a Monday, saturated the ground. The good news is things kind of dried out, and then it went away. Now, if you are waking up in the middle of the night, you're tuning in, you're checking your latest on your phone, and you see there's no rain out there right now, well, it is coming, folks. and you can help right here in San Antonio. And the way the city of San Antonio, the Emergency Operations Center people, the American Red Cross wants you to help is you can train to be a volunteer. This is kind of a last-minute training thing, but you can be a volunteer for the American Red Cross. You call 311. That is the city's line, and they will get you in touch with where you can go to train. Now, in the 3600 block of East Houston is where they were doing it for the past couple of days, Thursday and Friday. Tomorrow, we understand, from 8 to 2, they're going to be doing some volunteer training for the American Red Cross. And it doesn't take much. They will take you or send you to a shelter where you can help out. They always need volunteers. The American Red Cross, by the way, always needs volunteers. They always need money. So if you want to go to the Red Cross at San Antonio, I believe it's Red Cross SA. If you go to Twitter, it might be AmericanRedCross.com, and I'll get that corrected here in just a minute. You find out more information, just go to news4sa.com, and we will be able to put you in touch with somebody that you can help. Now, we are also partnering with different groups here in San Antonio to provide bottled water, to get the bottled water to people not just here in San Antonio, but people who need it down along the coast. And I believe if you go to Orange Theory, up in the booth, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Orange Theory, they are going to be accepting some of the donations for the coast, the bottled water, the bottled juice, the garbage bags, the diapers. Don't take that yourself right now to where they have been bringing the people in. We had some confusion about that. The people who have been coming in are being welcomed at 200 Gembler Road, I believe it is. But they don't want people here in San Antonio to go there to volunteer to help. They don't want them to go to the Kazin Middle School location themselves. They want you to call 311. We want you to talk to the people at Orange Theory, I believe, and that's where you're going to be able to see the locations around town. You can also send us your questions right now. You go to our Facebook page, that is News4SA, and you click on the live look at tracking Harvey. Sean Stevens and I will be here throughout the evening to answer some of your questions. And again, Sean is over there right now working on the maps, and I don't know where you are in the process.
Well, I'm ready to take some maps, and you can take me at the wall if that's possible. That way I'll work through these for you. Okay, so I guess let me be a little taller than the last person that was here. We are at a Category 3 still here in San Antonio as far as Harvey goes. So this is a major hurricane. Major hurricanes are 3 and above. It made landfall with 130+ mile-an-hour winds last night, Friday night, as a Category 4 storm. And we've been seeing damage, but it's very isolated images that we've been seeing out of Rockport, Fullerton. As far as I know, we don't have any video or any images coming from Port Aransas. I'm afraid to see what that looks like when we get the sunlight and when we see the storm move a little bit further north and things calm down some to where people, photographers can get out safely and shoot some of the video of what has happened, and the water recedes because I'm sure there's just so much water out there on the roads. Nobody can get anywhere. But Category 3, and it is just inland, just north of Rockport, Fullerton, as far as the center of the eye goes. But very compact, strong, tight wound storm is what we're seeing here from Harvey. And if we could switch it over to computer. Okay, here we go. So you can see the Harvey spinning around and those outer bands pushing out towards the Houston area with widespread flash flooding. We had the flash flood obviously happening right around the eye. Still an extremely well-defined eye with on the radar. There's still cloud cover over it, so it's called a dirty eye with the hurricane with the cloud cover, and we've had that the entire way. Never really did clear out. Corpus right now enjoying a little bit of a break from the storm activity, but it's still raining pretty good, but you're not seeing the heavy rain. But you can see that band right now just working into Pleasanton and Goliad, really beginning to see the heavy rain coming through. That's a flash flood warning. The latest flash flood warning is right in the edge of Goliad, Beeville, and just north of the eye. So you can see Rockport now on the south end. So we had all the winds that were coming in from the east-northeast when the storm came in. Now we're seeing winds back in the absolute opposite direction, coming from the west-northwest. And that is going to do even more damage, because all the damage that was done with that easterly breeze, there may have been trees, there may have been houses or structures that were angled so where they could sustain a easterly breeze. But with a west breeze now, hurricane strength winds, that may be ripping roofs off that survived the first round, or knocking trees over that roots could survive an east breeze but can't survive a west breeze. So that's another thing about hurricanes, is you get that shift in the wind, and things that, like I'm saying, could survive winds from one angle can't survive it from the other and just get destroyed. So San Antonio folks are still dry. That's the big part. And they may be thinking, well, these meteorologists are crazy. We haven't seen anything from the storm. I was talking with Randy Beamer a little bit earlier yesterday morning when I was looking at forecast models. They did not bring rain into San Antonio until 4 or 5, real heavy rain, 4 or 5 in the morning. So that still looks to be on track. As you can see, Lavernia, Floresville, Pleasanton right on the edge. Nixon seeing the good rain. And you also notice there is not really any lightning in our area. It's all off to the northeast. That's very typical of the hurricanes in these tropical systems. They're very warm. You don't get a lot of lightning, and there's not much thunder, but it's out in the northeast, far northeastern quadrants when you start to get spread out away from the warm core of the storm, that you get the lift, and that's where you start to see the lightning. That's where you start to see some hail as well. But closer in and on the eastern, northeastern, southern sides, you just don't see the hail. You don't see the thunder and lightning. You don't see much tornadic activity. It's usually out there to the northeastern quadrant. Right now, we're what we would call the dry side of this low, although we're not completely dry. We do have the scatter showers in San Antonio, but that dry side was not going to be lasting long. And now, so Category 3, as I mentioned, it's moving northwest at 6 miles an hour. It's 15 miles northwest of Rockport with 115 miles an hour. Now, fortunately, 115 miles an hour is just right around the eye. It diminishes pretty quickly as you spread out, but there's still hurricane strength winds for a good distance outside of it, but not the 115 mile an hour winds. Our winds are picking up, and here in San Antonio for sure. I'm sure that's one thing that we're noticing. So by 7 a.m., down to a Category 2. So that's still a very powerful, extremely powerful storm, and it's right between Beeville, Victoria, right over the Cuero area there, and you notice it will move slowly. So by Saturday night at 11, so all day today, it is forecasted to stay at hurricane strength, which is a bit concerning. And then it's going to be parked and stalled out right over, looks around Yorktown, Texas, just to the east of Floresville. So that is our concern here in San Antonio. Now we're so close to it. We're not on the dry side anymore. We're going to be getting storms, and all those southern areas are going to get the wraparound, and the rain will continue. Areas that are already dealing with flash flooding are just going to keep seeing that rain building and building and building. And so Sunday morning, I think by then we're definitely going to have a tropical storm. I actually think we'll have a tropical storm by tonight pretty easily. Water, we talked about what if it goes back over the ocean. So water temperatures, they're going to be cooling a bit, but there's still 84 degrees off the Corpus coast from this buoy. Winds are still 14 miles an hour. They were 20 plus yesterday. There's 83 water temperature. So if it does, it's expected to drop back south towards Corpus and does move back out over open waters. Those kind of temperatures, 80 and above, that would feed and build on, help to build this storm back up. So you can see again, there's our heavy rain, even on the south side of the storm, the worst of it up to the northeast. And that's where you get the severe weather, and that's where you start to see the thunder and lightning. It looks like there is a tornado warning there just to the northwest of Wharton, Texas. And Gonzales has some good outer bands. Let me get us back up here to where I'm looking at this radar. I'm going to zoom it in where you get a good look at just how tightly wound this storm is. So fortunately, the 100-mile-an-hour winds that we're seeing are going to stay very close to the center of that eye. We're not going to see them much further out. Let me pause this so we get a better view. Much further out than maybe 10 to 15 miles with 190 to 100 mile an hour winds. And you get to Victoria. Maybe I'll check the Victoria observations here if you just give me a minute. And we'll see how we're doing with those Victoria area winds.
As you do that, again, we want to thank people for joining us both on KDB.com and News 4 N24SA.com.
I guess they're saying we're talking about some outages, power outages that we're getting reported.
Outages we can show you on the map here in San Antonio. This is not due to the storm. We don't believe. We have only had light power outages. And as we go to the CPS map, CPS Energy had Paula Gold Williams, I believe, yesterday at one of the news conferences and was talking about how they are positioning people as best they can all around the area, if and when and in case. Now, as you see right there, that's that one circle there. That's the first yellow that we have seen. Estimated restoration. By the way, when I had my power outage the other day, they called me. They let me know when it was going to be back on, and it was about an hour and a half earlier that it was back on. And as we just, this is the last update. That's 1,000 to 5,000 people again there on the northeast side. That is not far from just north of Alamo Heights in that area. That's where they had a power outage the other day, and this may be more related. That's not too far from where some people I know are, and that might be related to something else because they've had some problems in that area before. So again, that may or may not be related there on Austin Highway to something else. Obviously not storm damage or storm related here in San Antonio.
No, not necessarily yet.
We have seen that. We saw a lot of power lines arcing. Mike Hernandez had seen some of those as he was heading south on I-37, and then we also saw some of the Rockport-Fulton area.
Well, I just checked Victoria's observation, and not surprising, Corpus is down and out. So we're not getting any information coming out of the Corpus area, but it's about 25 miles from the outer wall. Victoria's winds currently are at about 45-mile-an-hour sustained winds and 56-mile-an-hour gusts. So this is a very tight wound storm. It's only 25 miles out, and that's tropical storm strength winds, not even hurricane strength winds. So that's just shows you how tightly wound this storm is.
Now, as you look at the path of it, though, I guess it could have been worse because we expected, or at least for Victoria, it could have been worse because we had expected it to go more straight north toward Victoria.
Yes.
Now it's headed to the northwest, at least a little away from them.
So now the track is going to be taking it a little bit to the northwest and then stalling it out right over this area here in the far northwest corner of, northeast corner of Karnes County, and that's up near Yorktown is where we're kind of anticipating this to stall out. And then its movement is going to kind of just loop it back right over Corpus Christi. Now this movement, this line that I'm drawing, we're talking all weekend long. This is Sunday night where it's getting back over Corpus. So this is going to be a very slow moving storm. The winds will weaken, but as it weakens, it will unwind. So we're only seeing extreme winds around it. So as it unwinds, these tropical storm strength winds is what you'll die down to, will become more widespread. We'll see it further out than just 20, 30 miles out. It will then extend 50, 60 or more miles out.
And what we're seeing there is the wind, but when those bands come in to San Antonio, and as you say, it stalls out there closer to Yorktown, Karnes City, Runge, Pavelicville, all those areas down in there, the center of it, what kind of rain are we going to be accumulating over today and tomorrow?
I think we're still on track for 10 to 15 inches at least in the areas that are going to be affected. Obviously, some spots will be picking up 20 plus, and 25 plus. So that's the big question. The thing is just it's going to sit and dump rain. Winds won't be hurricane strength, but if you keep a 30, 40 mile an hour wind going for 24, 36 hours with an extremely heavy rainfall, so you guys have just nothing but mud, that loosens the strength of the roots of all the trees, so they're just going to start to tumble more and more throughout the day. Even if winds start to get a little bit less, you're just going to have so much water, so much saturated ground, and the roots just won't be able to hold. So we're going to see trees going down, which would mean most likely taking out power lines, so power outages throughout the day here Saturday into Sunday, as this will just linger and take its time.
And now, to put this in perspective, a lot of people here remember the tornadoes that we had. They were, I believe it was EF1s, which just mean 70 75-mile-an-hour winds, and that did some damage, toppling some trees, pulling out one across the street from me. Is that the kind of thing we can see? Is 70-mile-an-hour winds in this area, or is that going to be half that, 30, 35-an-hour area?
Well, throughout the day, we'll see those winds settling right around the eye. We will definitely see
We just wanted to say hi to our assistant news director there for just a moment.
She get on camera. I have my back.
I'm sorry. She's turning bright red, but everydy's working hard.
She deserves a little recognition.
She does, Mandy.
Sure.
You did a great job. Thanks.
Thank you, Mandy. Yes. Yeah, so the winds will stay around that eye. We'll keep it immediately around it, as mentioned. We'll rise up towards Yorktown, Texas is about where we're going to see, and I'll again put an X there where we're expecting it to kind of settle down later today, where it will stall out, and that's where we'll still see, I think, even late this afternoon, 70-plus mile an hour, possibly 80-mile-an-hour winds, especially with the gusts.
And you're talking about straight, and people don't know what that's like. We think of 70-mile-an-hour winds. We think of gusts of 70 miles an hour. We don't think of a straight-line wind that stays like
a steady wind, yes.
A steady wind.
So a gust that lasts for, 20, 30 seconds, maybe a minute if it's a real hard gust. That knocks trees over, but consistently, that really will be taking trees down and will be taking shingles off of roofs.
Because when that 70-mile-an-hour, 75-mile EF1 tornado skipped through, it was in a matter of minutes that it skipped through.
Yeah, those little tornadoes,
and so
yes.
it was, such a microclimate compared to what it's going to be like here. This Palacios down there toward the coast, and actually that flag isn't blowing as hard as it was. We took this shot about 10, 20 minutes ago. And
obviously you can tell that flag is wind battered. And
yes.
It's getting tore up.
And down there, Palacios is, I'm going to try to see where, remember in my mind exactly where that is on the map
in,
compared to
Furio.
Furio.
Pop up.
East of Port Lavaca.
Okay.
That's right.
There it is on the map. So it's all out there on the outer bands. And as mentioned, though, the winds, you saw they're blowing pretty good. But we saw Victoria, their tropical storm strength winds, so I would imagine Palacios had tropical storm strength winds there. They're not even as strong as those hurricane strength winds, which are, as we've been talking about, very isolated, right around very tight to the wall. And just 25 miles out in Victoria, latest observations had, I'm looking now, 43-mile-an-hour sustained wind and 56-mile-an-hour gusts.
And this is a relatively flat area. There's some hills there around Beeville if you've ever taken a bike ride down to the coast, but relatively flat. What might affect this in terms of making it dissipate? Obviously, when it hits land itself, that does it. It hits more of the hills, that would do it even more. But in that area, is there anything that we can look forward to that it'll help this thing dissipate some?
Well, obviously, over land, it's going to hit some friction. Of course, as you just said, we don't have much as far as hills go to from downtown about 50 miles. So 50 miles out is going to put us under some extreme rain today.
And we don't want people to get out there and put themselves in danger as they might take pictures of this. But some people are going to go outside and they're going to see some cloud formations different than they have seen before at sunrise, because the bands on this could be just amazing. What can they expect when they look out in the morning as this thing goes through?
Well, I think When folks are getting up with sunrise, we're probably going to be getting hit with some very heavy rain. I put a little tracker on here saying that this heavy rain at 12 miles an hour will be in the Converse area at 409, San Antonio at about 450, downtown to 451. So by sunrise, it's going to be real rough here for the Bexar County, San Antonio area. And Pleasanton's just now beginning to see this. So we'll see a wave go through, and we'll probably get a bit of a break with just more light to moderate showers, maybe for an hour or so. Then the next wave, and then the next wave, and the next, because this is going to hang out all day long. And these are slow-moving, heavy bands of rain. And it may be deceiving. I do have our lightning tracker on there. You don't see any lightning out there on this particular map. I have to zoom out to the northeast before you see that, but don't think that that means it's not, these aren't huge storms, these aren't powerful storms. Tropical storms do not produce, are very poor lightning producers because they are so warm. One of the key factors of lightning production is ice crystals colliding in upper levels of the clouds, creating electrical charge. Well, when you're so warm that you don't have those ice crystals, you don't get that electrical charge. That's why we don't have the lightning. But the rain is just as heavy, if not heavier, than those big severe thunderstorms that we see where the lightning is just immense. We'll have 5,000 lightning strikes within a thunderstorm with what, a spring system or from a cold front, whereas in a tropical storm you don't see that until you get into the far northeastern bands out toward a little closer to Houston, where you're seeing lightning and tornadic activity. That's where it's far enough from the core. The upper levels are cooler, so it's getting a lot more lift, a lot more instability, and it's creating the energy for the tornadoes and the lightning.
But for those people worried, like I am, if you have loved ones over in the Houston area, it'll be rain over this point because the wobbling around doesn't look like, as we had maybe thought in the models earlier, that it would meander and head back over that way.
Well, long term, you know, Houston's not out of this by any stretch. But Houston, I don't think today's going to be their worst day. I don't even think tomorrow will be their worst. This track here for in our current conditions for Harvey, so just give us an idea of what we're dealing with. Still a Category 3 storm, 15 miles northwest of Rockport, and it's moving northwest. So it's that now northwest turn, which should have us concerned in San Antonio. And I'll bet probably even my wife, as she's up, is saying, my husband's an idiot. It's not even raining, and he said it was going to rain. Well, it's still coming. Now that's turning toward the northwest, we're going to be seeing it. So don't think you're out of this just yet. So there's that movement we're talking about, putting it right over that northeast corner of Yorktown, over parts of Wilson County, Gonzales County, right near Yorktown, just a little bit west of Yorktown is where it's going to settle down tonight. So San Antonio, we're going to be about 50 miles from this core, and that's going to put us with some very heavy rainfall for sure. And I would be surprised, actually, if it's still a Category 1 at that point. But even a tropical storm would be bringing us that very heavy rain and 30, 40, 50 mile an hour sustained winds that will be toppling trees everywhere, and power is going to be going out. So now you see right there into Sunday morning, it's moving more west into Wilson County. That's even closer to San Antonio. So the areas and that cone of uncertainty, I think that is a good idea of where the extreme rainfall is going to be within that outer red circle that you're seeing. That's the uncertainty in the forecast with the no steering mechanism in the upper levels. This storm could end up anywhere within that circle. But I think we have a pretty good grip, at least over the next 24 hours with the movement of this. So I'm going to move this, and you're going to see tropical storm by Sunday morning. I think it'll begin a little bit earlier than that. Still, it's over Wilson County, right on the Wilson-Karnes County line.
And the colors in that, what do those
estimated mean? Rain totals. So you get into these yellows, that's where we're 15 to 20 inches
and isolated spots could be up to 25 inches by Sunday at 1. Now, San Antonio, you notice we're in orange and red, so that would be between 5 to 15 inches of rain in the Bexar County. And obviously, the closer you are, the more rain we would expect. So eastern, southeastern Bexar County should get hit harder than western to northwestern Bexar County. There will be pockets where we may end up seeing, Fair Oaks Ranch gets 25 inches of rain, and maybe the south side gets 18. Could be a scenario like that, and those numbers could be cut in half, but we're going to see a whole lot of rain. So there's Sunday at 1. It's still just lingering there in Karnes County at 5:30 on Sunday afternoon.
Wow.
That's
now
nearly 24 hours away.
Another question for you here. We're getting, a lot of calls for people to help, to donate, to volunteer. It looks like in San Antonio, if you have maybe a high-profile vehicle, if you know what you're doing, if you want to get out, you want to help people, say the San Antonio Food Bank is accepting donations out there on Highway 151. They're going to be preparing boxes, donated supplies, and they don't want you to bring stuff to the San Antonio emergency shelters, but the food bank, as we understand, is accepting donations. What do you tell people about getting out to do something like that?
Get out early. Right now, I mean, you're probably not going to get out and do it, but by sunrise, we're going to be getting some good heavy rain. We'll be able to let you know when we'll get a better track on this, if you can get out and maybe drop off some food at the food bank here early in the morning. But as we go through the day with this track, it's going to get worse and worse and worse, and the flash flooding will start to kick in. You see, this is the end of this track here, right, at 11 p.m. Monday. So this is 3 in the morning on Saturday. Wow. It's 11 p.m. on Monday. It's parked back over just north of Corpus Christi, still as a tropical storm.
And it's possible then, as it makes, I don't know what you call reverse landfall, as it goes
up at that point, and this far out, then it could move back to any spot back onto the Texas coast. Now, I think this is the most likely scenario, that it will be riding along the